So we're gonna call this meeting of the Community Improvement Corporation to order at 5:30 exactly. Maggie, for a roll call, please.
Mr. Unger.
Here.
Ms. Ulrich. Here. Mr. Waller.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. McElravy is excused. I'm here.
Okay. You have in front of you, and has been provided in the meeting packet earlier last week, an agenda. Are there any motions? I guess I'll motion to approve that agenda with consent. We can do that now, believe it or not. So is there any objections to that?
None.
All right. We have provided the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any motions with regard to the minutes?
None.
Nobody has any motions for the...
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, discussion.
None.
All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Unger.
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich.
Yes.
Mr. Waller.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, moving on to new business. Mr. Miller, I guess if you tee up one at a time, first A.
All right, first item on the agenda here is a motion to sell parcel 510-0013-0011-00. The address is 2800 West Kemper. When we built Station 109 on Kemper Road, we had a remnant of a parcel left over that was not used for any of the construction. So we have 0.825 of an acre available for sale, and so the township has given that parcel to the C.I.C. And so we placed ads on the website and put a sign out, and we had for sale, and then we had 3 offers on that parcel. As in the packet, we had an offer for $25,000 from the parcel next door, the owner of that property. We had an infill developer who wanted to purchase it for construction of a single-family home and an accessory dwelling. And then we had a third offer on a drive-by, who wanted to put just a single-family home there. And so my recommendation would be that the board would authorize the executive director to enter into a contract with the highest and best use out of these offers, and to specifically provide in the purchase contract a date by which the builder would need to break ground, and could give him a generous time window to do that. And if it was not in that period of time, then we would have the option to claw it back, and with a specific amount, that he would agree to, we would then put it back up for sale after that.
So on the $27,500 bid for a single-family home, do we have any idea the anticipated market value of this home?
He said it would be approximately $450,000 to $475,000 total.
Can I ask you this question, so we don't run into an issue down the road? Since we redid our zoning laws and there's no sewers out there, and we're required 1 acre minimum per house there, are we going to run into the need to put a variance for these 2 individuals that want to build a single-family house?
That's a good question.
I meant to ask you that earlier, too. I'm sorry.
Let me look at the,
That's my only issue with when I thought about the
yep,
2 single-family homes.
I have the site development standards here.
And Hamilton County's with a second, a mother-in-law suite or whatever.
Right.
How big is the lot, Kathy?
0.82 in our district.
With the single unit residential, without sewer, it does have a 1 acre minimum.
That's what I know when we did that, so I just want to double check
Yeah.
with that.
I mean, if I might ask Maggie, I think we had discussed that size limit being part of one of our technical corrections.
If it's RER, like rural estate residential, then the acre wasn't in question, but it was setbacks. So they would have to get a variance if it's RER, but not if it's single unit residential.
Okay.
Is it zoned for the person that wants to construct a barn or garage accessory building? Is the zoning good for that right now?
Only if they combine the parcels.
Has that person expressed the interest in doing that?
I have discussed a consolidation of parcels with him, and he said he was open to that.
And how long it doesn't matter, but he's been taking care of that lot, or we have?
We have not been taking care of it. He did build a gravel road on it, and that road extends to his, one of his buildings. I think it's a garage or a barn, and so he wanted to just build a larger one out there. And I think he expressed maybe moving his parents out there as well.
Do you know how the size of the lot that he's on?
I don't.
Okay, from what I'm seeing, it's zoned single unit residential, so they would be able to build a house there.
Even though it doesn't have sewers in our new zoning laws. Because I
Okay,
know
I
we
guess
ran
that's-
in, Yateman's just down the street, and somebody did this on Yateman, and we denied the subdivision of the property because it had to be an acre.
Okay.
I just want to double check that we're not going to have to come back
It
here.
is the site development standard that's in our zoning resolution. I wasn't aware it did not have sewer.
Yes, I forgot what I had.
I'm inclined to go with the person that wants to build I don't know him. I've not talked to him. Just looking at the zoning that Kathy's brought up and this, I'm inclined to go with the person who wants to improve the property, who we know will take care of it. The new house, how close would it physically be to the fire station?
We don't have any plans yet from them. There's no site plan.
Right, I
that
mean,
was
it would, the
established.
fire station being a 24-hour
Right.
operation, I just wonder how well that would go to buy a $400,000 house next to a 24.
There's some quite big houses very close in proximity to the new fire
Down-
station.
down the hill at
And on
Abbytown
Pippin
a little
and-
bit.
and on Kemper, they're beautiful big houses. I just wanted to double check that so we don't run into anything with the variance of BZA or anything.
So I think you're getting a bunch of different opinions here because looking at our revenue stream, I think it's in our best interest to accept the $27,500 bid.
And plus the property taxes would generate.
That's what I'm looking at down the
I agree
line.
with you on that one. I was all set for that, and then when I hung up with you, I just forgot how big the lot was.
So like I said, I don't know either one of these people, I'm just looking at it blindly. What would the improvement be on the if they'd combine the parcels and build another building, that would raise the valuation of it also,
On that one parcel,
right? They would combine them,
Obviously.
so they would take a fresh look at the house and the accessory building or
the
the,
new building might be. Yeah,
it might add $100,000 to
Right,
the
I wouldn't think it'd
valuation.
be $500,000. But that would probably be taken into consideration by the county auditor, the addition of a non-residential
would-
building.
Can I ask a question, Maggie? Since I don't know Hamilton County zoning process for sewers, are they also an acre? Or are they, I mean, I know that you still have to do your perk test.
I'm not familiar with
Okay,
county.
I'm not sure what the county
well, I'm just,
regulations.
since there's two build codes that we're gonna have to go by with the person building a house. That's what I'm wondering, if Hamilton County would kick them out because it's not an acre also. I'm not familiar with that.
I'm gonna go ahead and just see where we go with it. I'll go ahead and motion to sell it to the neighbor for the $25,000 one, just see what happens with that, and that'll tell me if we're gonna sell it to the second guy or not. So I motion that we would accept that first bid of $25,000 to the immediate next door neighbor, and he would combine the parcels and make an improvement. So that's my motion, that sell it to the historic next door neighbor to combine.
I'll second that, just to get it to the floor. My feeling is that we don't have enough information on the other one yet. What kind of time situation are we with this? Do we need to decide this tonight?
No, we do not have to decide tonight.
Okay.
So if it votes up or down, then it can come back at a next meeting?
If we did not approve, if we don't pass the motion to sell to your motion, then we could,
You could not. You could not reintroduce it unless someone in the winning side of it is the only one that could reintroduce it.
Okay,
So I would suggest withdrawing it, and then we'll just have the same thing the next meeting.
I agree, because I would like to see another $450,000 house on this property, as long as we make sure we can get it through our zoning and Hamilton County, and if not, we could take, with Dan's speculations of combining the property.
Let me, yeah, I see Mr. Conover in the audience, let me make sure I have that right. So if a motion, Mr. Unger presents a motion, it loses, the only person that can bring that up in another meeting again would be somebody that voted on the no side, the winning side in this case. Okay.
Well, call the roll.
Mr. Unger,
No.
Ms. Ulrich,
Yes.
Mr. Wallert,
Okay, what are we voting
We're
on?
voting on,
Selling it to the $25,000 guy, I voted no, so
oh,
that I
no,
could
no,
bring
then I'm
it
taking
back
back, I
up.
thought we were voting on what I said, I'm sorry, because, you second his motion, I am so sorry.
Yeah, I second it.
It's on the floor, she called me and I
Yeah.
Okay,
said
I'm
no.
saying
'Cause
Sorry, I thought we were going with my motion, is wait till the next meeting after we have that.
So how do you want to vote?
No on yours, okay, and wait for the next meeting.
And I voted no on mine also,
sure,
so
okay.
I can bring it back up at the next
No,
meeting.
no, it would have to be on the losing side, but I'll vote yes, which means I can bring it back up.
Okay,
It's the losing side that can bring it back up I'm sorry, the winning
The winning side.
side, yeah, the winning, I'm sorry.
So I'm voting no, and I'm
Yeah.
anticipating I'll be on the winning
Sorry,
side.
sorry, yeah.
So how do
Long
you
day.
vote?
Yeah, so I'll vote no too.
Mr. Miller,
I vote no.
I'll vote no as well.
So that frees us to bring it back up
right,
again.
right.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to motion now to take these three, take at least B and C. A is a little bit of a separate animal, but B and C, and table it to the next CIC meeting.
Okay.
Is there a second? Okay, second. Any discussion?
No.
All right, call for the roll.
Mr. Unger,
Yes to table.
Ms. Ulrich,
Yes to table.
Mr. Wallert.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Miller, and I vote yes.
All right, are there any other items?
Not on that specific item. Second item is an update and discussion on and potential action related to sale of Station 26. Wanted to just let you know that the last time we met and discussed it, we did request a Phase 1 environmental analysis. We did receive that back on June the 17th, 2025. Came back as clean, and so that's good news. I actually made a copy for you.
Oh, thank you.
This is the executive summary.
I did see this online. That
You did? Okay.
You did send it
I
out.
just wanted to, I highlighted the executive summary and the item, the line in particular, the assessment that they have performed has revealed no evidence of recognized environmental conditions in connection with the subject property. So, good news, it is got a clean bill of health. So, as well, as part of the last meeting, we entered into a contract with California Cars, and the contract had two specific conditions. One was that they would apply for financing by May 16th, and that they would also apply for Board of Zoning Appeals for a use variance by May 16th. And so the first one was accomplished. We gave them a week's time to get those applications in. They did apply for and receive financing. The BZA application was not completed until yesterday, so June the 23rd. They had not made any attempts until we did a press and got them to do that. They are now scheduled to be on the July 23rd Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. If the Board of Zoning Appeals approves their use variance, then there would be a 30-day referendum period, and we could close no sooner than August the 22nd. So that's where we stand on Station 26.
So that's just merely an update. We're really not asking for any action.
That is correct, unless you wanted to take action.
I don't see any need. We do have to take action on letter C, however.
So did you extend their contract for the BZA time period? Did they put a formal addendum together?
I did not amend their purchase contract
Okay.
because we just got their application yesterday.
Right, okay, so since they're a little behind on that, do we have to amend the purchase contract for that?
It is, in my discussions with the administration, there is no need to extend
Okay,
that purchase contract.
okay.
But everything's flowing along, and by July 23rd, and then a month after July 23rd, we'll find out if there's an issue, and then,
Or actually, July 23rd, we'll find out whether the Board of Zoning Appeals approves their use variance.
right,
If-
and then
if
there's an
they're-
appeal period after that.
If they don't, if they're not approved for the use variance on July 23rd, they will have 20 days in which they can appeal to the Court of Common Pleas.
But not us.
Not through us. They'll be done with us. So they could appeal to the county, or they can walk, or we can decide some other route.
And there's a 30-day referendum period for.
And then, yes, so if they did get approval by Board of Zoning Appeals, then there would be a 30-day referendum period for
Sure.
Colerain residents. And so that would be the 30 days on that.
Sure.
Okay, thanks for that update.
Okay, item C.
Item C is a motion to extend the commercial brokerage agreement with Nick Barella, Republic Commercial Real Estate. So that contract was dated to have a hard stop at June the 30th, 2025. And so given that this specific property is still in play with Board of Zoning Appeals and anything else after that, it seems prudent that we would extend Nick Barella's contract an additional 90 days. And I would recommend till September the 30th.
Because if something were to go wrong with BCA, he still has
Right. He would,
clients that are
we would
interested.
still have him under contract in order to help us dispose of it
Okay,
after that.
I'll motion to extend the commercial brokerage agreement with Nick Barella at Republic Commercial Real Estate by 90 days.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, please call for the roll.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
I vote yes.
All right, that's 5-0. Any other items for the good of the cause?
None.
Are there any motions?
I motion that we would adjourn the Community Improvement Corporation meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second at 5:48 to adjourn the CIC meeting. I'll call for roll.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Ms. Ulrich?
yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes,
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
I vote yes.
we are now adjourned. Thank you.
It's actually 6 o'clock Verizon time, time to start the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees for June 21st. And we'll take roll call, please.
Ms. Orich,
Here.
Mr. Unger,
Here.
Mr. Waller.
Here.
Okay, can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
one nation,
under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. Before we sit down for our moment of meditation, with the events that have happened this week, let's keep in our hearts and prayers that our leaders become peacemakers, and they will bring peace to the pain that's happening right now. I thank you. Okay, we have some approval of minutes.
Yes, thank you. I recommend a motion for the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on June 10th, 2025.
I motion that we approve the June 10th meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussions?
None?
None for me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have some public hearings.
Thank you, Board. We have two public hearings. The first is a public hearing regarding zoning case CZZ 25-2. This is zone text amendment to conditionally permit cannabis dispensaries in certain zones. I would recommend that you all open the public hearing.
Motion to open public hearing, zoning commission case CZC-25-2, zone text amendment to conditionally permit cannabis dispensaries in certain zoning districts.
I will second.
And I will note real quick before you all take roll that we will have a full staff presentation later on this when you guys contemplate the resolution on both this and the next item.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And then typically, anybody who wants to speak on this particular item will have you stand and be sworn in by our township attorney.
Anybody want to speak tonight? Well, hearing
All right.
none. and
I'll
seeing
motion to close the
This is
public.
just- This is just for the cannabis zoning issue, sir. Yeah, the public input part is a little bit later. That's just on this one topic.
All right, hearing none, I'll motion to close the public hearing, zoning commission case CZC-25-2, zone text amendment to conditionally permit cannabis dispensaries in certain zoning districts.
I'll second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich?
none. Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next public hearing is on zoning case ZZC 25-3. This is a zone text amendment to correct technical errors in the zoning resolution, so essentially typos. I would recommend opening the public hearing.
I'll motion to open a public hearing, zoning commission case CZC-25-3, zone text amendment to correct technical errors in zoning resolution.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Same thing, if there are individuals who want to speak on this public hearing in particular, if you would like to stand and be sworn in. The dispensary one that we just had, that's Colerain Avenue. Yep. Not seeing anybody on this public hearing, I'd recommend closing.
I'll motion to close the public hearing, zoning commission case CZC-25-3, zone text amendment to correct technical errors in the zoning resolution.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The next item are presentations, and we have presentations of new firefighters by Chief Alan Walls.
Good evening to the board.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Tonight to introduce and administer the oath of office to the department's newest career firefighters.
Yes.
It's not working.
It is now.
Working now?
Now it is, yes.
Green light's not working. There we go. All right. So I'm here tonight to introduce and administer the oath of office to the department's newest career firefighters. I'd like Caleb Madison and Greg Dietrich to come forward, please. To my immediate right is Caleb Madison. He was introduced to the fire service by his father, who's been a firefighter EMT for about 23 years in Austin, Texas. He earned a degree in fire protection from Eastern Kentucky University and his EMT from Gateway Community College, where he's finishing up his paramedic right now. He worked for Travis County Fire and Rescue for 2 years in the greater Austin area, returned to Northern Kentucky, started working part-time for Colerain and Springdale, and then accepted a full-time position for Covington. Upon doing that, then, he returned back to Colerain full-time here in April, and his first shift was April the 22nd, where he intends to serve the remainder of his career. And tonight, he will be pinned by his fiancée, Odara Oliveira. I get it right? Awesome. To Caleb's left is Greg Dietrich. He graduated from LaSalle High School, sorry, Matt, in 2004. He graduated from the University of Cincinnati with a degree in criminal justice in 2009. Early in his career, he worked in law enforcement in both Maryland and Greater Cincinnati. He began recruit class here in 2024 and graduated in 2025. He starts medic class in May of 2026, and he'll be penned tonight by Jim Dietrich, his father. All right, raise your right hand, repeat after me, please. I state your name. Solemnly swear. Constitution of the United States of America. Constitution of the State. Abide by the Colerain Fire and EMS. Abide by the Colerain statement. Values. Ethics. Code of ethics. Operating guidelines. Start the duties of firefighter paramedic. County. Ohio. So help me God.
Thank you for hopefully years and years of service, and congratulations, and thank you for choosing Colerain Township.
Thank you so much, both of you, and welcome aboard to what is, you'll certainly find out, is the best fire department in the state.
And congratulations to both of you and your families.
Okay, if, at this time, if anybody was here for the firefighters, you can, if you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting, you can leave. I'm giving you the chance now, run!
But check under your seats. Usually we leave gifts.
Our boys in blues just left too. Okay, now we come up to citizens' address, and for those of you who haven't been here before, we have a little timing system that you get 5 minutes to speak, okay? We're not going to speak back to you. If you have questions, we'll try to answer them during our time so you can have your whole 5 minutes, okay? So the first person up, Richard Thomas.
As a reminder,
Oh.
it's green, yellow when there's 1 minute, and then it'll go red at time.
Okay. Green's your whole time, yellow's your minute warning. Red, he's kicking you out of here.
Thanks for coming out, sir.
Yeah, thanks for seeing me again. I was here a few years ago when Clipper Park opened up, and the issue at that time was the drive-through traffic. And I just want to thank the committee for getting together and putting an end to that. You saved our street from thousands of cars coming through. The issue now that we have, unfortunately, is the after hours when the park is supposed to be closed. It's turning into a drugs trading post. A couple weeks ago on the 14th and 15th, we had over 100 cars. My wife and I sit on the porch and counted them. Over 100 cars went at the Clipper Park at 9:30 at night. The police have to been called. The next night, another group came, and the police again had to be called. So all we're asking the citizens is, please, can we secure the gate to the park when it's supposed to be closed? If it's supposed to be closed, there should be no need to have that gate open, and people won't be going in and out of it all hours of the night, doing all sorts of things that they shouldn't be doing. If necessary, all you have to have to do is one patrol officer doing his patrol, lock the gate. I come by in the morning, I volunteer to come out, I'm retired, I ain't doing nothing anyway. I come by in the morning and open the gate up when y'all say it's supposed to be open. Also, you want to consider the speeding. People come out of that park flying at low flight. You think they have wings, they take off. All we're asking for is a couple of speed bumps to slow it down. One speed bump, slow it down, because our street is a long street. It's a straight shot. People come around the corner and they see a quarter mile. Let's see what my car do. And that's what they do on our street. We're the main interest to the park. That is the one street in this community you should be concerned about. We have kids, we have elderly people, we have pets going up and down our street all day long, and people speeding by recklessly. So far, we've had a telephone pole taken out. We've had 4 cars taken out on our street, which is a side street in Fairland. It's the entrance to the park. All we ask you to do is show a little concern for the citizens and take care of our concerns. Slow the traffic down and lock the gate. We'll open it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Dave Moravec.
Welcome, sir.
Can I use the rest of his time? Thanks for all you do for our community. I was here for a few reasons. I'm the president of the Chamber of Commerce, as you know, and we have put a mural. If you didn't know that we had a mural in our community, everybody should know we have a mural in our community. It has been funded by the business community and individual donors who have supported that, and I came to you with the confidence that we would be able to do the project without asking for any funds from the township, and we've been able to do that. So I just wanted to say thank you for the support that you have provided in the way of engaging ODOT and allowing us to further the project. The muralist has done a phenomenal job, and I encourage people to go out. July 12th, we're going to have a program called Hands Across Colerain. It's an unveiling, if you will, of the mural to the community. That's 2 weeks from Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning. We're hoping the community will come out and celebrate what we've done across the community. I will let you know that the mural that was, still is at the corner of Pippin and Adams has been repaired. That building had been destroyed on that, from that corner. And again, thank you for the work that you did to get that corner safer. But the muralist has been out there in the last week and has completed the last 2.5 feet that was destroyed by that. So I wanted to let you know that. We're trying to get the word out through social media about the July 12th event. So please, if you can, like, share, etc., for that particular event, and encourage people to come out and celebrate. It is the longest mural in Greater Cincinnati and the second longest mural in the state of Ohio at 802 feet. So kind of cool. The C.I.C magazine, you each have a copy of it. This is supported through the Chamber of Commerce efforts. The articles that are in there were written by Colerain Township staff, myself, and the school district. Again, we're trying to bring a positive light to Colerain, and we as a Chamber of Commerce feel like we're a convener of that. The financial side of that, supported specifically by the advertising that's in there. The Chamber of Commerce receives nothing in the way of return from C.I.C magazine for that. It's not yet available online, but it will be, and I'll have additional copies available to have here in the Township Center, and we'll get those to Jeff or Helen or to David to be able to distribute. We hope to get them out into the community, and they'll be available at the CVS pharmacy very shortly as well. A couple weeks ago, we had a Vision Quest bus tour. Your staff was nice enough to write a nice article about that event. We had almost 50 people going around the community. Kathy, you were a part of that. We got to see some really diverse parts of Colerain, and it was to be able to share that with others, share ideas about the vision of Colerain. It was just terrific. The fact that we started and ended at the Sears store seemed appropriate. Lots of parking, and there was lots of construction going on, so that was fun to see.
Your hometown hero?
A hometown hero. Oh, yeah, that's like down here someplace. But it turned out to be a terrific event. We had about 150 people. It's our largest fundraiser of the year. Next year, we will have Ken Anderson as our hometown hero, which perks people's attention. And he has a foundation that supports developmentally handicapped adults. My brother happens to be in that category, and we've been able to keep him at home. And that's what effectively he does. A couple of events that we have going. The BB Riverboats is hosting us on August 15th. And we do have a chamber cruise, first ever Chamber of Commerce cruise. If you want to go to the Caribbean with us in January, we have that event coming up January 18th. I guess the last thing is the Fire and Police Appreciation Breakfast is going to be September 12th here at the Senior Center. And we encourage people to come out for that. So thank you so much.
Well, you got your yellow
Thank you,
light.
Dave.
Good. Thanks for all that you do, David.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm getting my glass on. Matt Pining? Did I say that right? You got it. Okay.
Hello, everybody. Matt Pining. I've been a resident of Colerain Township for about 5 years now, since December of 2019. And myself, as well as two of my neighbors here, we all live in the Pebble Creek neighborhood near St. John the Baptist Church. Wanted to bring a safety issue to your attention. I believe my neighbor over here has brought it to your attention before, but I am here to bring some extra attention to it as well, or voice an extra, or lend an extra voice to the situation as well. The curb, where the blacktop meets the concrete curb, it's actually tilting on its axis. It's directly in front of my house, actually. Not on my side, but directly opposite my side of the street, on my neighbor's lawn. But what is happening is basically the entire slab of concrete on that curb is tilting its axis, and one end is diving into the ground, and one end is starting to pop up on the other end. What makes it a safety hazard, not only obviously a walking hazard, but it is directly in front of a fire hydrant as well. I suspect, I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that maybe there is a leak of some sort in a pipe that is causing the sagging to occur. So I wanted to bring it to the township's attention in case you aren't aware, not only because of the safety concern, but also because it may be a bigger issue down the line if not addressed sooner than later. Thank you.
Is that addressed on his
Yes.
card? Okay, thank you.
I got it. Okay, John Fisher.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm John. Since '07, I guess I lived here. I came here, I guess, a year ago and about this issue and was told, well, just tell so-and-so because they're in charge of, well, nothing really came of it. And for several years now, I've been puzzled why our curbs don't get replaced on Pebble Valley Drive. I'm going to guess 3 years ago, they redid the curbs on, Thimble Glen. And I thought, wow, they're changing these and they're a lot better than ours. And this was, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago. And I just can't understand the concrete goes down the storm sewer, the chunks, it's falling apart. And just, I don't know what they're going to do. Wait till somebody falls in, or what? That's all I can say. It's they're ugly, and it ought to be fixed.
Is that address on there also, Kathy?
Yes.
Okay,
I know where John lives.
That's all. Thank you.
Thanks for coming up tonight.
thank you.
Okay. Okay. The next on the agenda is administrative reports.
Thank you, Board. Happy to answer questions that you may have. I know some of this we'll talk about with the later agenda item. Curb issues, I know Tawana's in the back of the room. I don't know if you guys have spoken to her before, but she'd be happy to get more information from you guys specific to that. Outside of that, just a reminder for folks that July 3rd, is our fireworks celebration that happens here on site. There are going to be food trucks, all kinds of fun activities, live music. So excited to see folks come out for that. Should be a great event and a great evening.
Band is? The
I was
Remains?
about to say I'm not a music guy, so
Okay.
sorry.
And alcohol will be served?
Yes, for a price.
Price?
Yes, it's not free. So that's it for administrative reports
Mr.
this
White,
evening.
back on the concrete curb issues, the others will probably end up driving out there, but can you keep us, I don't want to, it
Yeah,
seems like it came up
so-
4 or 5 years ago and maybe got kind
So
of lost in the shuffle.
full replacement of curbs is probably the most expensive part of a road replacement. Concrete is a little more expensive, and with the shaping and the rolling of the curbs. So I don't know where they sit today as it stands on the replacement schedules. And I don't know if there's some smaller patchwork that the crew can do, and that's where I'll be relying on Tawana's team to provide us with that update. So
But I have a gut feeling that it sounds like it wouldn't do a whole lot of good to replace it right now until we find out what caused it in the first place.
well, if there is a water main issue or something to
Yeah.
that effect. Now, I will say in the past we've had some issues in the township, and I'm aware of one specifically on Menominee where there was a water main, at least I believe it was Menominee, that had a leak, but the leak wasn't big enough for Waterworks to want to do anything. And so that just continued to create problems for us. And, we were kind of at their whim. So we would do what we could to repair those potholes, but then they would keep popping up time and time again because that was not our jurisdiction.
Well, that's understandable because Waterworks is usually busy increasing my sewer bill every month.
Yep. So they did eventually fix it, and when they did, that was when we actually went through a couple years later and did the full replacement of that roadway. But I know it's frustrating, especially there's a person that comes to our meetings quite frequently that I think it was outside of their house, so they got to watch it very often. So
Anything else?
And as far as fireworks, they're legal, but they're legal under certain circumstances. I'm assuming we'll blast that out.
yeah, we can put that PSA out again. I think we did that a couple years ago. Chief Walls and his team are very well aware of it, and I think the biggest thing is making sure that if it goes off in your property, it stays on your property, so you're not affecting your neighbors along the way. But the state did loosen the laws around home use of fireworks a couple years ago. Last year was the first full year of that, and so this year will be the second, and I'd imagine we'll be getting some calls related to that.
And there's nothing more frustrating than having to go through my yard and pick up bottle rockets on July 5th. And Chief will also confirm last year, my neighbors, he had to come out, put out a fire at my neighbors because of their fireworks usage.
And part of those rules do require some setback regulations and things like that, just like everything, and distance from one property to another, and that's where some of these issues can arise, especially from a policing standpoint.
And they're free on July 3rd, and they're really good.
It is an incredible show up here.
Yes, it's beautiful. We good?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, now we move to the trustee report. And so if you don't mind, I'd like to go first. I want to wish everybody a very safe 4th of July, and please stay hydrated in this heat. And later on in the agenda, we have to talk about a levy. I want anybody here and anybody watching to know that none of us really want to raise taxes. I don't want to pay any more taxes, but we are in a situation here at the township that we have a $4 to $5 million deficit. And if the levy doesn't pass, part of your problem might be solved. Our parks might just have to be closed. That's number one. Number two, when the parks close, those parks employees, because of union contracts, will go into our roads. Then roads will be taking a big hit on their budget. So there's a lot of reasons that we need this levy. Taxes are only paid twice a year. So we can run into problems about even paying payroll. And we could possibly even have a little shutdown here in Colerain Township. And we could end up, if it goes that bad, into a bankruptcy situation. We are going to be looking at 3 different millage rates. The 2.0 is very fiscally irresponsible and actually created a lot of unrest with our police. They feel that it wasn't a business plan. It was a tiny little Band-Aid on an aortic bleed. Right now, the city of Cincinnati, Fairfield, Blue Ash are actively recruiting police, and we could be losing a lot of our police. And so, in another And if we have to cut our police, we get federal funding. We have 58 police officers, 6 of those are school officers. So if we drop below even more than what we have, we will lose federal funding, and we will even lose more police officers. So I just want to let you know, when you tally up these different costs that we are going to give to you, right now, even at a 2.3 levy, we are at a modified response time. We have lost 1 detective. We have reduced patrols. We've lost 1 in our impact unit. We have gone from 8 clerks to 4 clerks, and we have less hours. Now, if we go anything below a 2.3, once again, that's going to be impacted severely. The 2.9 will give us 66 officers. Every study done on Colerain Township, every study has had us at a minimum of needing 85. We have 58. A 2.9 would get us to 66. That would increase patrols, increase a detective, put another person on our impact unit, and have more float for more police officers. And Dan, in December of ’23, you proposed a 3.0 mil levy, which would have generated 5.45 mils. I would like everybody to consider the 2.9 mil levy, which would bring us 5.27. It would get us out of our deficit situation. We could have the money to do our roads. We could have our money to do our parks and maybe have patrols. But right now, we do not have the money for the patrols. Our police officers are, it's just the amount of hours and calls they get. Our chiefs are actually on patrol. I think people have to know what's going on in Colerain Township. The levies that we're going to present to you tonight, it's at 2.9, is $10 a month, and per 100,000. And even at $20,000 to $30,000, that is less than any home security fee that you would charge to protect your home. Please consider this, because we need to protect our entire township plus your homes. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. I am in full agreement with you, and right now our hands are just.
We're legally not allowed to issue debt to cover operation expenses. We're only allowed to issue debt for capital.
Mr. Unger, you want to go? Or?
You can go next, or I will. I don't care.
All right, you can go.
Should I?
Or if you want me to go, I'll go.
No, I just wasn't expecting that. We are always going to do our best to provide the best services we can. I'm hopeful that we arrive at a agreeable amount on a millage. We have run 2 levies in the last 2 years, and they both went down, so we need to figure out where that sweet spot is, where people can afford it, and we can, I have heard what the voters have said twice, so we're gonna, when we get to that point in the agenda, we will discuss it. It's not gonna do us any good to put something on that is, gonna have trouble passing. But some of the other things, as my trustee report, is we continue to have dog issues, and we had one today, and the folks at the end of Philnall and Hanley continue to let their dog run loose, and that citizen called me and mentioned, it sent me some Ring doorbell video of this pit bull running around, and she did contact the dog warden. The Clifford Park issue, I know some folks are here for that, and that is a discussion item coming up shortly in the agenda. I am still getting calls about the 1-month absence of a contract with the electric aggregation. I guess we're on now for what period of time, Jeff?
1 year.
Yes, and that'll take us to May or June of '26, and then hopefully the rates will have.
Yeah, it'll get us through our June bill or our May bill, which comes in June of 2026.
We're still having an issue out in the 2200 block of Miles Road with the resident out there whose yard is all junked up, and I continue to hear about that. And I know that I believe we've issued I don't know if we made a complaint with the Alcohol Commission on the bar over there at Pippin and Compton, they continue to have overnight, late night, too much noise issues. And then I do have a question. I did get a question about, are you allowed to bring dogs into the park for movie in the park night?
I believe the answer is yes, assuming it's on a leash and contained.
Yes, there's a lot of people there with dogs.
Not dogs for sale or adoption necessarily, but if it's just your own personal dog, you are allowed to bring them.
Okay, and I continue to give out my phone number to anybody who has a question. It's 513-404-3057. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I have a myriad of things to talk about. First of all, with regard to the mural, so I'll be honest, when I saw saw it first sketched up, I'm like, I don't know about that. When I saw it live, it was 1,000%. I loved it. It was, it's amazing. And I've learned on things like that to just wait it out patiently because I don't have vision for art type things. But I commend you on that, and I saw you guys out there working tirelessly on that. And thank you for your outstanding work on the Cincinnati Magazine, and everything you've done with the chamber has been fantastic. Also want to kind of echo to stay safe on 4th of July. And it is legal, and we're going to post that out. But please keep in mind that that Colerain Township has a large number of veterans, and these constant fireworks oftentimes can trigger things. And with pets, I know that it's. My dog, he doesn't mind them. He sits there and growls at him and barks. But I've had dogs previously that actually I have to medicate because it scares him. And I forget, was it up north somewhere, Westchester, where the police dog ran away during the fireworks? That happened in Greater Cincinnati somewhere recently, and I was shocked that I was just. Now our dogs are trained better, obviously. We've talked about the concrete thing. And the other thing, it's sometimes you kind of shake your head for the lack of common sense. Look, I know everybody's going to be celebrating on July 4th. We should. It's our country's birthday. But once you start involving minors with fireworks, some of the ones with the heavy ordnance that they are, that's not legal. And it's all right to have a few drinks, but an inordinate amount of alcohol and fireworks really don't mix real well either. Just common sense wise, and let's think about our neighbors and things like that as well. I had a couple weeks ago, I had the honor of being on WVXU for one of their talk radio shows about the police issues that we're facing. And it's important to point out, because I think there's a narrative of, well, spend less, you can do less. Right now, the police are on a 5-year levy. Are we entering year 12 of that?
So the levy was adopted in 2014. First collections were 2015, so it'd be year 11.
Year 11. So they've stretched. And I find this really kind of ironic that they've done so well with this 5-year levy that they stretched it into 11. And for some reason, they're being punished for it. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And I understand nobody is more cognizant of the property tax issues than I am. But this is a real quality of life issue. And our police, I think our police force right now is strong, the individuals and the force itself. The people that we have running it all the way down through the rank and file is the best department I've seen in a long, long time. And the idea that they have to field calls from other jurisdictions trying to poach them from us is really sad to me. But keep in mind, and again, I know everybody has a breaking point financially, but they are going into year 11 in a 5-year levy. I don't think I've ever heard of anything similar in the region. So it's not like it's a constant ask, and they deserve it. I mean, I think I talked on WVXU. I read the story about an individual who, the day of the Kroger shooting, decided to take his kids to Kroger to get some pasta because I guess he was home with the kids for the first time for dinner. and he heard this familiar sound, and the first thing he did is he threw his kids down to the ground and covered them up. Just an awful, awful scene at the Kroger last year. And I remember it specifically like it was yesterday, because that same day my mother had triple bypass heart surgery, and I was coming home at 5 o'clock, and my phone was ringing and ringing and ringing, and I had been at Bethesda all day, and I didn't want to have a darn thing to do with the phone. And after about the 6th call, I said, "Uh-oh, I better see what's going on here." And when I heard the story of this, to understand what these men and women do, it is just amazing. Is that they found the guy that was, and I believe this was an impact team, that was under suspicion of dealing drugs, and he knew that they were on him, so he started to flee into Kroger, and I'm probably going to screw up the story a little bit. They started to flee into Kroger, but then he realized that he wouldn't quite get into Kroger, and he turned around and he opened fire. There were 3 people in that team, and from what I'm told, the third person, who was plain clothes, knew that the best way to do would be to flank him by going in through the exit. So the 2 are going in through the entrance following the shooter. The other is going in through the exit. They didn't communicate. None of the 3 communicated. But the 2 that went in the entrance knew that the third one would be there at the exit. That's remarkable to me. The amount of training for them to have that trust and know exactly what's going to happen. I mean, I work with young people all day. I mean, you ought to try to implement a zone defense or something. I mean, it's just, nobody's ever in the right spot, ever. 5 people covering 1 person sometimes. But to know that, they're so well trained, and I don't know how many shots went off. I think it was over 40, but when the Ohio investigative unit came in and looked at the shots, every one of the shots had cover, meaning that it was not going to hit, it was fired in such a way that it was not going to hit a civilian. And it's just incredible. I don't want to lose that. What happened that day at Kroger was a bystander got hit with some kind of deflection that hit his foot, and I think the alleged perpetrator got shot. But that could have been in dozens, not just 1 or 2. And I'm not saying that to scare people, but when somebody goes in with nothing to lose and starts firing in a grocery store, and these are the men and women that are going in after that, and just to see the juxtaposition of them having to go down on their knees and beg for $10 a month to keep their job is really troubling to me. It's not what I'm about. I don't think that's what most people are about. So when you hear narratives of, they're spending too much money, or they're not doing this right, they're not doing that right. Right now, the amount of calls they get, I think it's half of what Cincinnati gets, with a quarter of the 10th of the staff or something ridiculous like that. They need our help. And when we need their help, they're there. And I know it's a personal thing for what everybody wants to do, what they think they can afford. But remember, 11 years on a 5-year levy. I'm proud of that. I think that we tend sometimes in government and policy to dehumanize things. I mean, these are the people that are saving our lives. And I think it's important that we do what we can. And I know you're overloaded with tax levies, every single, but you're not overloaded by our police. So, and we'll discuss that later as well. And again, everybody have a safe 4th of July, and hopefully we can get the temperature down below 110 or something. And thank you for listening to me on my soapbox there.
And on your soapbox, the police did that in 43 seconds.
That's right. I forgot that.
Yes, that's a statistic that is well worth repeating over and over.
And it's just because to me, it takes me 43 seconds to get off the couch. I mean, they apprehended the guy. It's amazing.
Okay, so let's move on to new business
Said
then.
one quick update, Dan. I was able to look up on that Phil Knoll address for their fence that is sent down to housing court. So it's just a matter of when they get in front of the judge. But outside of that, we can keep calling the dog warden and hoping that they will follow through.
I
on
don't
their end.
understand why they don't fix it. It's just,
Well, they should be before a judge soon. So
I'm sorry, can I add one more thing about the dog thing? Avery's Law was passed by the Ohio House. This is something that came out of what happened in Colerain, that all three of us separately lobbied our state reps. I was on WLW twice talking about this, getting something. Avery is named after the little girl in Lincoln Heights or Bond Hill that the vicious dog killed, and the dog was back at the family. They didn't put the dog down, but it's strengthening those things, so it gives us more tools. So thank our state reps.
I was gonna say, we gotta thank Cindy Abrams.
Cindy Abrams, Mike Odioso from Green Township was also big. I mean, I burned up their phone lines saying, do something, do something. And they did. Yeah.
Okay, new business.
Yes, first item of new business will be presented by Fire Chief Alan Walls.
Welcome back, Chief.
Make sure my mic is on.
That coat was kind of hot out there today, wasn't it?
Couldn't have been a better day to have it on. Fortunately, we were inside, not outside. So I've got one item for tonight. It is a motion authorizing the disposal of a surplus vehicle in the Department of Fire and EMS.
So I'll motion to authorize the disposal of a surplus vehicle for the Department of Fire and EMS.
I'll second.
Chief, I'm going to ask a really stupid question here.
See if it's the same one I got.
Is it about putting it in a park?
I know, it's good. What does one do with it?
Oh, okay. You know, over years ago when I played nine-hole baseball, I think it was over in Deer Park, they hit a tank in the park, and it was the greatest thing ever. Is that an option here? Because we're scrapping it for such a low amount.
Truly, it's not. We ourselves are going to scrap everything off of it that we can.
Okay.
And then Jerry's Truck and Diesel will take what's left and then scrap it.
Okay.
So it's a 1993 E1 hush pumper that right now it'll run, but it won't go into gear. Transmission is shot. They've worked on wiring and spent entirely too much time trying to deal
Right.
with it. And it's been in a reserve capacity for a number of years.
Okay, so time's
I was just checking to see if it could be a toy for the kids.
Well, I just wonder, some people you see on these car shows, they buy them and restore them. I didn't know if you were gonna sell it or just scrap it.
Yeah, no, they'll scrap it.
Okay.
I had an extended conversation with Administrator Weckbach about it, and I'm willing to scrap it.
Okay, so do we want to take a vote for that?
Ms. Orch?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Woolley?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. Next item will be presented by Lieutenant Middendorf out of the Police Department.
Welcome, Lieutenant. Is this the first time?
Second time.
Second time.
Second time. Good evening.
See you.
All right, we were polite the first time. Now we're going to have to be mean.
Thank you. Thank you. Motion before you tonight is a resolution declaring nuisance and ordering abatement. This resolution allows for the removal of uncontrolled vegetation and/or refuse at the following properties: 3550 Alamosa Drive, 9597 Amarillo Court, 9219 Burgess Drive, 7905 Colerain Avenue, 10235 Colerain Avenue, 2968 Compton Road, 2620 Cornwall Drive, 3324 Lapland Drive, 3227 Niagara Street, 8389 Pippin Road, 3781 Ripple Grove Drive, 3029 Sovereign Drive, and 12003 Westerly Drive. Recommend adoption of this resolution.
I'm going to move to declare nuisance and order abatement at the properties Lieutenant listed.
I'll second it.
And I'll just point out, I had a long, protracted discussion with Mr. Weckbach about this today because always keeping an eye on the bottom line. The way this, if you're not familiar with, when this is done and we have to remediate, it gets charged to the homeowner or put on their property taxes. And my question to him is, at the end of the year, you know, do we get most of that back, or is this a death by 1,000 cuts where nobody ever pays it? And we did a little bit of a deep dive into that, and for the most part, it's really revenue neutral, and it keeps the place looking good. So thank you for that.
And can you tell the public if they want to become anonymous and report a neighbor? We like when people report because we want to keep our neighborhoods nice and maintained. We don't need the junk cars. We don't need grass up to our knees. So could you explain to them the process of how that works?
Right. I believe you can submit online anonymously, and you can also call 385-CODE.
Yeah, I don't believe it's anonymous, but you can submit online. It's not anonymous intentionally so that we can make sure that we can follow up appropriately if we need to. And also, if it gets in front of a judge for a housing court issue, we may have to go back and who was the first to witness, all that kind of good stuff. But online is the easiest way. That's why when Dan was bringing up his issue, I was able to look it up sitting here because it gets tracked, automatically dispatches our folks to make sure that they're on top of it and responding to those complaints. So
I know that at times people have not wanted to use their name. I'm like, just tell me, I'll be the
Yeah, I
one.
was just gonna explain that too. They call me and I will put the complaint
I
in,
think-
so please keep us informed. We'd like to clean up our neighborhoods.
and I would encourage all three of you that if you do that, to put your eyes on it yourself too. That way,
Yeah, I do drive by.
if you're a witness, then you're ready to go.
And that's why I give out my phone number at every meeting, 404-3057. I get plenty of those questions, so.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Hey, Board, I'll intro the next one, and I think John and other members of the team are available to answer questions should we have them. Dan, I believe, asked us to add this to the agenda, which was an opportunity for you all to have a discussion around hours for our parks, as well as gates and how we do or do not handle them. In addition to gates and how those work, I did outline a number of different items of how we could approach some of the issues with Clippard Park that have been raised by residents tonight. Added some stats in there from the police department, which I'm happy to go through as well. And in addition to these, a couple other ideas that one was raised tonight, which is one to consider, would be looking at entrance roads into the park. So I would say both on the Dew Hill and Fair Glen side, and whether or not any sort of speeding interventions would be warranted there, like we've done in other neighborhoods. However, in the past, we've done that when we actually repaved the street, so I'll give that caveat. And the other item that we hadn't really talked about in the memorandum is cameras, and whether or not cameras similar to flock devices could be installed that would be able to alert or notify the police if there's illicit activity going on in the park. So those are just a couple other ideas to throw there, but I'll pause there for questions and allow you all the floor for conversation.
I guess the statistic for Clippard, we had 10 calls on Clippard in 2024, and we don't know if those 10 calls were from the same person. Is that correct?
Those were the overnight calls. I did not have a breakdown to see who was calling.
So, sorry, it's not one of our high priorities for calls, but you have patrolled and you've made several arrests in that vicinity just on regular patrols.
Correct. So the numbers I have in front of me, of the 11 overnight incidents, actually 5 of those were initiated by us. So that means we were on patrol driving through and we came across some type of activity or somebody in the park or something like that. The other 4 were just calls for service, and then there was 2 EMS runs in that area.
Okay,
So John
those
was
are
just
calls we were
John
able
was
to-
speaking to the 2025 stats. So that's year-to-date 2025. Kathy, I think you were referencing 2024.
2024, so we're not, I didn't know what the 2025 result. So the incident that occurred, we had how many squads to respond to the last incident?
2
2,
for this year.
okay.
Are you asking about the June 14th and 15th events? I think I was told that we had 3 or 4 of our officers dispatched to that event. So
5 cars out there on the 14th. You had 3 out there on the 15th. I sit on the porch and watch the whole
Okay.
thing the whole time.
You're our ring camera guy, so.
Well, and that said, I've talked to Mr. Weckbach about this, and I completely understand the shortage of personnel, and I don't know that everything that goes on there gets reported. And you indicated in our discussion that sometimes we just can't respond because we've got other priorities, so.
yeah, for example, if we've got domestics going on, that's probably going to take
Yeah.
precedent over suspicious person.
Certainly, and I know there was a horrible incident there several years ago where a deceased person was found in the park, and if we're going to have parks and we're going to have a closing hour, it sounds to me like we need to pick a time and lock the gate. If we're not going to have a time the park's closed, then take the gates down, but we need to have a time that the gate is closed.
Yeah, and there are several board-adopted policies that set those hours as dawn to dusk. So that's actually in our policy book. On top of that, there is a gate. We have tried in the past locking the gate using on-duty police. That wasn't effective because we, quite frankly, weren't always able to get there. I think John was able to speak to some of
Right,
his
I
own personal
understand that.
challenges. And so in in the detail here, I kind of outlined what the cost would be, depending on how we would want to approach locking the gates, because there would be overtime associated with that for personnel.
Right, and you mentioned, it was in our discussion, you mentioned that it's actually a public works thing, and if we move an employee to second shift, there is a pay differential of $4 or $5 an hour, but do we not have any public works employees working a second shift when there's so much afternoon activity?
Not at this time, no. So they get called in if there is something that is urgent or an emergency. When it comes to road work, I can't think of, if there's a water main break, that's not going to be us. Sewers aren't us. Right. If there were a collapse in the road, then we would be calling folks in, but I'm not aware of that happening in any history of the township.
But we do have, millions of dollars tied up in our parks and play sets and recreational things, and then I realize you can respond, but if there was a public works person that was second shift, they could, part of their daily duty could be, drive around and see what's going on and, perhaps stop bad incidents before they happen. And if this board reaches a conclusion of, yes, the park's going to close at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, May through September, and then in September close earlier, let's get the gate locked. And if the gate's locked, then these guys aren't having to come out in the middle of the night.
From a staff operational perspective, it's more efficient the way that we're currently operating, but if we wanted to split it up and have somebody operate on a second shift, we could. We'd also have to look at splitting shifts amongst park employees to have 7 days of coverage, because right now we don't. We're only here 40 hours a week, and so that's going to create, when we only have 4 to 5 full-timers to begin with in parks, we're essentially
Well, then there's the option that
bifurcating
this
the
gentleman
entire.
suggested that, and I don't know how it works with the union contracts, but if there's neighbors that live right next door to it, and if that was a piece of private property with all that police response, we would have had that as item B, declaring it a nuisance property.
If the union were to grieve it, there's a very good chance we would lose that grievance and have to pay them back wages for all the volunteer hours.
Right. Well, I mean, if they grieve it, then we would just surrender and say fine. But at least we would know if they were going to grieve it or not.
So you would prefer for us to move forward?
I'd prefer to investigate if we could put a second shift person, not just that park, but all of them. We have, millions of dollars invested in these parks. And what this person's brought forward and some of the other neighbors I've heard from, it seems like there's a persistent issue. And we don't need a bunch of underage kids in there at 9 or 10 at night anyway, because bad things start happening, and I don't want to have another, worst case scenario like we had a few years ago where a young lady was found deceased there.
So in order to prevent that, though, we probably would have to have somebody staffed in the park 24/7, because if they came in
get through a locked gate, that person?
I'm certain that they could carry the person, or in the case of where our gates are located, they could drive down the drive, stop, and dump the body there. It wouldn't have prevented that probably from happening.
It might, make it less likely if the people get used to the idea that, hey, it's dark out, the parks are closed. I use the example of Arlington Cemetery over on Compton Road. They have an employee that comes in and closes the gates at night.
And that is an option that was put in here, is to have an employee hired specifically for that, which would be a park ranger type of position, because then they would have the policing authority to actually kick people out.
Hey, ma'am. 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 Hey, ma'am, you had an opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting. Okay.
Anyway, I want to figure out a way to get the gates closed, whether it's with a volunteer or
I would be
see if you can
curious
get a
to hear
memorandum of understanding with the labor organization or what.
I'd be curious to hear from the other two if they feel the same way, because this feels like we're diving into operations, which is what you hired me to do, and that's fine.
Right.
But
So do you want the gate closed
do I want the gate closed?
at a reasonable hour whenever the park closes?
If we had funding to do it, then sure, but I don't believe we have the funding to do it. We don't have the funding to close the gate.
Okay, liability-wise, for a volunteer, I don't think our insurance would pay if this person got hurt on the job, or if they were shutting the gate or somebody they didn't like and there was an altercation, we could be sued. Our legal counsel, these are some of the things that we had discussed with volunteers. So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think we've had those conversations in the past, and Jeff and I think that the memo outlines those risks exactly. I think they're even stepping aside from if you're just looking at like not slip and fall, but something happens like an injury like that to the individual. Certainly, absolutely, sir. If you guys are gonna have to keep interrupting the meeting, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. So if you can just right now, we're having a discussion. There's an opportunity for public comments at the beginning. So
Please stick around, sir, and listen to the discussion.
So what I would say is there's certainly the ability to do that, but there's a lot of exposure to the township for physical injury to the volunteer. If there's is someone there that's after hours anyhow going to listen to a volunteer saying, "Hey, get out"?
I just think
What
it puts-
authority do they have to do that? If we lock someone in intentionally, there's like false imprisonment, sort of like. There's just, I think, a lot of issues of someone that's not trained in that way. Not saying it can't be done, but it causes me some pause.
So if I could chime in a couple things. So I'm told about 10 or 12 years ago, we actually paid people $100 a month to open and unlock and lock the gates. So there is some precedent for that. And the other idea, as strange as it may seem, is I tried to run by Mr. Weckback, and I'm concerned about the union grievance as well. But, the origination of the trustees were for roads. That's certainly a road. What would prevent the trustees from locking that on a rotating basis? Because we're employed by the township, and it's fulfilling our statutory obligation of roads. So is there a union grievance with something like that?
You asking me that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that there probably is, right? Because the CBA specifically outlines the duties and responsibilities of each, in this case, the public service workers. So I think anything done outside the scope of that would certainly kind of present the same kind of issue. I will say, as I think Kathy likes to say, whenever she goes to OTA, she learns about all the trustees that are driving, snow plows across across the state. So not to say that trustees in more rural jurisdictions aren't doing that, but in a situation like that, there isn't going to be a CBA in place for folks dealing with that. So I still think it would probably, run afoul and create an issue under the CBA. To your point, though, I think what you're perhaps getting at is there some ability, if someone's paid, does that alleviate some of the volunteer issues? Certainly, I think they can perhaps then be an employee, but again, I think without an MOU to the CBA, I have a hard time seeing how there's not a grievance issue.
Have we approached what is that? That's
We have union negotiations with AFSCME this fall.
Yeah.
We can approach early, but usually when you approach out of contract, you're giving up something in exchange. Usually it's not free to give up overtime.
Does it call in the contract for somebody to maintain the parks and lock the gate, or is that not listed in the?
Their contract refers to their job description. Their job description states that they open and close all township facilities, which would mean that they open and close access to the parks.
I'm thinking from a practical reason that maybe this MOU would be viewed a little bit more positively, because who wants to go to a different shift? I don't know that that's something that people may really want to do. I mean, the alternative would be, if we don't have an MOU, perhaps, well, we're going to have to move shifts.
Well, and if we move shifts, like I was mentioning, since we only have a limited number of full-time parks employees, you're probably going to have 2 people working in your parks regular shifts, 2 people that are working this alternative shift. Somebody's going to have the short end of the stick that has to work weekends. So
Right.
it's going to create some major.
It happens in the private sector all the time.
It does, but again, these are just issues that are going to come up, especially when we've got negotiations coming up. It's not going to make our negotiating position
Well,
any easier.
if they say no, they say no. I guess my ask would be to approach them to see if they would be open to this. If they say no, then we've eliminated it.
I'd like to see how much it would cost too for shift differential. Do you have any suggestions for this?
We've done this in the past with locking the gates, and we've also had issues where people have driven around the gates. People park and still walk into the park. So the gate may limit some vehicle traffic, most of it, but there may still be incidents where people are walking into the park that we just don't know about then at that point.
Then it makes your response more difficult.
Correct.
Because I don't know if everybody has a key to it or whatever, but, so, no, I was asking about the MOU to ask if they would be opposed to the volunteer or whatever, or the trustees or somebody doing that, and if they say no, we've eliminated that. My next question was, it was brought up almost secondhand, the idea of cameras. What do we have, what ideas would help with cameras?
Well, if you've got cameras that maybe could be, and these are going to be expensive cameras, but could be set up to have those motion alerts. Like I said, Flock is one in particular that could, let police know that there's a license plate coming into the park. And if we've got a clerk at the desk, then they would be able to notify the on-duty person that, hey, somebody just drove into the park and it's after park hours.
But once again, that's going to be.
And I guess big picture, and this is a question that I have, is if we're having this issue and this conversation here, are we going to do this at all of our parks? Because when we had the issue with the teens and our police showed up and those individuals left, they turned left when they got on Springdale Road and went to a Springfield Township park. They could have just as easily turned right and went to Colerain Park. And so then if we're just going to relocate an issue somewhere else within our community, should we be looking holistically or just at this one area? You heard the gentleman mention in the past the complaint was about people cutting through the park. So we did address that, and that did drive down traffic quite a bit. But we're here again talking about people driving into the park and people using it. It quite frankly is part of the issue. I mean, we were getting calls on Saturday because there were a lot of people at the park, and to me, that's the question. Do we want a park that people are going to use or not? Do we want a park where people are using it at night? No. And that's where police have done a good job, I think, when you look at the numbers, when they're responding more often than they're getting calls for service. In 2024, 66% of any of the issues overnight, there were 29 total, were self-initiated by police.
29 reported, or?
There were 29 total. And we keep saying reported or not reported, but just because somebody drives in there doesn't mean that they're not turning left or right into Isaac Walton. It doesn't mean that they're driving down there, seeing it's closed, turning around and coming back out because they didn't want to drive into someone's driveway. I don't know why people drive into or not into the park. I'm just stating that of the known issues, 66% of them were self-initiated by our police department. There were 10 total calls from residents about people being in the park after hours. To me, this seems like a high expense for 10 calls. That's my take. Now,
Well, I agree
now
with you.
maybe it's underreported. I would like to know how much it's being underreported because we heard someone earlier talking about curbs. We'd be putting money toward replacing curbs on roads, or we could put it toward things like this, or we could put it toward police officers.
I think the thing with the curb, if it's next to a fire hydrant, when the plumbing installation was backfilled, I think the fill has failed there. That's, if it's in my experience with roads and that's probably what that unique issue is. So it's not just a road issue, it's a fire service issue.
A fix and a cost.
Were you aware of the BB Boys block party June 7th, Clifford Park, 7 p.m. whenever flyer that went out? It was all over Facebook. I'm not on social media. I don't have time for that, but somebody sent me this screenshot. It says, bring your own beer, weed provided, Clifford Park. I think that's what he was referring to with the 100 people that showed up.
Yeah, we
Do we have
were not
intel that-
aware on that. Sometimes we get tips, and that's where we can then proactively respond. We were not made aware of that until after it happened.
Right. I just didn't know if that's, I mean, as I always say, the three of us don't get a chance to ever talk except outside of these meetings, and what do we do? You're the professional. How are we going to get this resolved?
Tiffany and Tawana, you were having a discussion back there. Do you have anything to add since this is your departments?
Come to the mic, Tawana.
Please, both of you, because I saw you in
Here
some
comes the
deep
two gate locking volunteers now.
Yeah, but neither one of us live close. And if I did live close, it would be something
Pull the mic down, please.
Yeah, the mic, thanks.
I forgot I'm short.
Yeah.
And I'm not wearing heels. So there's a couple things to consider from a broader picture. One, the gated dew hill. We had installed initially the 2 gates to lock the park up so you could not access it at night. The dew hill gate was removed. So when we listened to the residents and they wanted to stop the drive-through traffic, because that was a nuisance, and even in the park, people who were using it as a cut-through were using it as a street, and they were driving like it was a street, and kids are playing and running, and so yes, we did. For a couple of years, we had Jersey barriers. They were just very tacky in a very beautiful park. So we were not using the gate, so we repurposed the Dew Hill gate, moved it, and now it is in place of the Jersey barrier. So the Dew Hill side of the park doesn't have any longer a gate to close off the park. So if we were closing it, we're only closing the side on Beavis Lane. As Lieutenant Mittendorf said, you can still park in other areas. You can park at Isaac Walton and walk in through the woods. So there's still going to be some access for those who want to get in. They're probably going to find a way.
Right, it doesn't have a fence around it. If you want to walk in, you can get in, but if we're going to have an established time the park is open, we should either secure it or take the gates down and take the signs down.
And those are definitely things to consider. One of the things that we were talking about, if we move staff to second position or second shift, that would present a multitude of hurdles that we would have to cross. One of them being, it wouldn't just be one person. It's not safe to have one person working by themselves. You would have a supervisor, 2 employees. So now you're looking at 3 people moving when we've only got 6 total. And that's in our Parks Department. And then how do you, there's a lot of times when, even though a lot of times you've got one person at this park and one here and one there, there's a lot of times when we need all 6 of them to work on one project at the same time. When you've got 2 separate shifts, and with only 6 people, 3 on each one, then we're kind of handicapped in some of the things that we can do that needs a larger group of people. In an ideal world, yes, I agree. Back, if you go historically, and I've looked at our data because in the first 12 years, 13 years that I worked here, we were building and investing millions of dollars into our parks, and we were flourishing. At that time, we had the equivalent of 14 staff members working Monday through Friday from 7:30 to 4. We had an additional, I believe it was 8, it's on my Post-it note over there, individuals who worked weekends and evenings. And so we always had coverage in our main parks, so Heritage Park, Clippard Park, and Colerain Park. If needed, they would go to other areas. There was an individual, he actually lived across the street, on the side across the street of Heritage Park. And he locked the gate at Heritage and Dravo every night, 365 days a year. He even did it on Christmas. He was single man, didn't have children, and he just loved our parks, and it was something he agreed to do. And at that point in time, the union contract read differently than it does now. Through previous financial difficulties, as we are facing now, across the board with all of our departments, we had to make cuts in staffing. And now we've got 6 full-timers. And with that, we supplement 8 seasonal. They all work the same Monday through Friday shift altogether. So after 3 o'clock on any given weekday, the parks are empty. There's no staff. to check shelter rentals, to check trash, to check on the spray ground. We operate on those hours on an on-call basis. So if someone is at the spray park and it's not working, and they just start making phone calls, they'll eventually probably make it to the police department, and they'll call one of us, but we're not coming out after hours just for
Right.
that. We do come out after hours if there's a stop sign down or something major that, you know, is within our realm. Something like that would not be. Even when we've had times, we did have an arson at Clifford Park last year, and but that was, our fire department responded. They put out the fire, police did a report. There was nothing we could do after hours, so we didn't come in for that. Had there been a body in the park, kind of watching over it and kind of like, that looks suspicious. You know, when we had those eyes and ears on the park, we didn't have some of the issues that we do now. But we had to make the budget cuts. We had to. It was a fiscally responsible thing to do at that time because of some state funding that changed. And so now we're kind of in a position where we've got these wonderful parks and we are absolutely doing our best to maintain them and make them great, but we don't always have people there. And that's why we run into some of the issues.
So it's a contract issue that we can't use a volunteer is what I gather from all this.
From all of that, I think it would be an issue. I cannot speak.
Well, and it only takes one member of the union to file it. They don't even have to all agree to it. If one of them files it, then that's all it takes.
And in the big, giant picture of things, I've heard from several residents, it sounds like the other two may have also, we just had a couple people walk out of here and say, I'm not going to support the police levy. And we need to start counting and figure out how we're going to overcome the 351 vote margin that we lost by.
I don't believe they supported the last levy, from what I've been told, and
Well, I think there was other reasons too, but when I've got residents that are, I mean, we need to get all these people together and go, look, we need to support, you know, the police.
If you're telling me that spending $10,000 a year will
No, find a
cause them-
volunteer.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I can try, but I don't know that we won't still be paying this money anyway because of the way our CBA is structured.
Talk to them. I mean, is your relationship's probably good enough with them, and just say, hey, what if we
can
have
talk-
a reopener
can
and we
to
talk
them.
about it?
And again, with reopeners, usually there's something that
And
you
if they
have-
say, well, if you do that, then I want these 5 things, then we don't have a reopener. I mean, you can,
And that's what I suspect is going to happen, is if you're looking at an opportunity for overtime, which is extra pay in your pocket, and especially
we
on
don't have
Sundays.
it.
What's that?
we don't have it right now. Just
But then why have the reopener, I guess?
Just say, look, can we get a volunteer in here and let them say yes or no? And if they say, yeah, we'll talk about it, then we'll talk about it. And if they say no, forget it, then forget it. But if we're going to have parks and they're going to have signs in them that say they're open and closed at a certain time.
And I asked the question about big picture. So Tawana mentioned the arson at Clifford. We've also had arson at Dravo. We've had arson at Groesbeck. I don't know that we've had that at Colerain, but we definitely had vandalism at Colerain.
We did.
We had vandalism at
That
Heritage.
occurred overnight.
All of this happened at night. And so my question is, if we're going to treat one park one way, shouldn't we be looking at all parks?
Yes, we should. The complaints I'm getting are on one of them. And I'm really glad, because in my years here, we've never really had this discussion amongst the trustees. You're in the unique position where you can talk to me and her and Matt, but the three of us never get to have these. I think this is a great conversation amongst all of us. Sometimes administration needs to remember that we don't have the benefit that you have of getting to talk to everybody in the organization.
Well, and that's the point I'm trying to make, is that holistically and big picture, there are issues at all the parks with overnight activity. And yes, there are residents that are calling about one. That doesn't mean that it doesn't exist in the others, like you said.
And how many locations do we have? Do we need to hire an officer just to patrol each one of them? Or is
And
there
that was
some way we
one, that
can
was one of the suggestions, was actually hiring a detail officer for the parks. Another suggestion was hiring a part-timer that would be with police authority to kick people out, close all of our parks every night. That'd be a park ranger. That's something that other communities have done. But again, all these things come with a cost. And that's
There's all kinds of park districts in Hamilton County that use volunteers have volunteer organizations that help them.
And not all of them have collective bargaining agreements with their
Right.
employees.
Right, we just need to figure out something.
I understand, and I offered solutions that I believe are things that we could legally do. 5 options in this memorandum.
And is there any chance of a firefighter personnel locking them?
Firefighters locking the gates?
Yes.
They don't have the authority to remove people from parks if they're in there. That's one of the issues here. If fire's going through and locking gates, we're assuming they're not on runs and that they have time within their
Right.
schedule. And then beyond that, if somebody is in the park, they don't have the policing authority to say you're trespassing and kick them out of the park. And so there still is some of that inherent issue with this operational question.
You know, we had, at the last meeting, we recognized a large group of people who've been through the Citizens Police Academy, and I just happened to make the comment after that presentation, wow, those people collectively donated, 2,500 or 2,600 hours. And they've been through some police training, not anything certifiable by the state or anything, but we just need to find a way to get this under control. And that's my challenge to you is figure it out.
In that case, the police unions that are involved were not directly, there isn't a conflict in their collective bargaining agreement like there is in this one.
So they could have a volunteer do it.
The police department?
Yeah, except it says in the.
It would still be public
works
services
contract,
work.
Okay. I'd love to hear if you guys think I'm off on a train, or do you think that we need to figure this out, or?
Well, I mean, the problem is we don't have the money to pay for any of the solutions. I think if we ask about opening up an MOU and use a volunteer, we're likely going to get the answer no. But it doesn't hurt, but I guess I don't want to talk about what ifs. Either it doesn't take but a second to figure out, hey, are you open to this? Yes or no, or yes, but, and yes, but, and no, it doesn't work. And then, it sounds like there's a police presence already. In the back of my mind, I'm also concerned about lock gates being something that would hinder a police response for something.
EMS response.
Or an EMS response, yeah. That's true. And I'm concerned, is that a concern? Is that something, or am I making that up? Is that, it seems to me that could be a deterrent to police getting in there quickly on some issues.
Right, and sometimes a gate like that can hinder our ability to do the patrols, and oftentimes we end up driving through the parks and sneak up on situations, whereas if we're unlocking the gate or whatever, that may give that person time to run away.
Right, and it sounds like on a majority of the incidents, that's what you did. You were driving through there. And by the way, a closed gate doesn't mean people aren't going to access it.
If there's teenagers, they
Yeah.
can hopping fences. They're not driving there anyway.
You can walk right around the gate.
Right, and so that's where the locking the gates for some of the, I would say, majority of the call were teenagers. Would you?
I don't have that in front of me,
Okay.
but
I'm just,
What time do you-
They're going to get through a lock gate anyway.
It's the third or fourth, we're right around the solstice. What time would you consider the parks would be closed tonight if sun sets at 9:34 or whatever?
as soon as it's dark, sunset, dusk.
Would it be helpful if we had, hours from Memorial Day till Labor Day and a different set of hours, so there was kind of a hard number there?
I
You
think
don't
it's
have to answer that, but think about it.
I think the dawn to dusk is open to interpretation at sometimes. However, I think that's what most communities around here are using. I noticed yesterday down in the city, Cincinnati, they actually do have a time frame posted, but I have not seen any other communities that do that.
When I was a teenager, we went down to the thing on Struble where they said the wedding venue, and that's where we did all our illegal drinking. So I don't know if we could put one of those in. Or
I think if that was the only, I think the problems are a lot greater than that nowadays. Is that somewhat accurate? that Matt says he goes out and illegally drinks, but I mean,
Not now. I may have.
I think the problems have really changed in the last 40 or 50 years.
Sure.
Well, Jeff, figure something out. We've got,
I think he has given you a number of options. I think it's for us at this point to decide and
let's see what they say. If they say, no, we're not going to do a reopener without 30 things thrown in, then we have that answer.
And for the record, we do have our regular negotiations this fall, and so that's something to keep in mind, too.
I mean, I'd love to pay the gentleman a couple dollars a month just for volunteer to do it. I mean, if that would.
Yeah, if it's something where we
We
pay him
have to
$100.
work it out with the union, so. But then we have liabilities. He said he'd sign a waiver.
Well, and I don't, I mean, so I had my car locked in one time at one of the Oaks or something because I was there for an event and then left with friends to grab lunch or something. When I came back, didn't even have a sign posted. So I think that stuff kind of happens more than you would think. And I just figured, well, I'm an idiot for not knowing that the thing's going to close and ended up having to pay my way to get out of it. So I guess maybe things have changed. I would have never thought about illegal imprisonment and suing and things like that. I actually just would blame myself on that. But, I don't know that I just don't know that there's a complete answer to keeping trouble out of parks, other than not having parks. But we can try to mitigate it as best as we can.
It's an expensive one-time cost, but to me, the one-time cost is the automatic arms and gates at all of our parks. But if we're talking about, potential failure of a police levy leading to needing to shut down our parks to begin with, there's
It's a moot point.
a value proposition there. If you
And that's
take the
nothing
time-
anybody has talked about.
If you take the time and
I mean, Kathy mentioned it, but we have not, as a group,
Matt brought it up
decided
already.
anything.
Yeah,
We've mentioned it several times.
I brought it up on WVXU. It's a math problem, and there's no easy way to figure out the math problem.
But at the end of the day, I mean, that avoids your people issues. It should, assuming that the equipment doesn't go faulty, open and close. If somebody is locked in when they approach it from the rear, it should still go up to let them out. Again, it's not going to stop people being in the park or using it, but that is a one-time cost. It's just also not a cheap one-time
Right?
cost.
And I don't support that at all.
Rather hire more police than put.
Right, absolutely.
Well, I think we've had a robust discussion on it, and let's see where everybody is, see if you can figure out something.
Thank you so much for all your input.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
All right. Well, the next item on the agenda will be presented by Development Director David Miller.
Mr. Miller, you'd be happy to learn that I just got a text from a friend of mine that Chase Burns struck out the side in the first inning.
Wonderful. So we began the meeting tonight. Again, there we go. Began tonight with two public hearings. And so what we're doing now is bringing back a resolution to you to either approve or deny the legislative proposal to enact the policy that's set forth in, that was the topic of those public hearings. So first one that we discussed was Zoning Commission Case 25-2. This was a zoning text amendment to change our zoning resolution. Currently, it prohibits zoning certificates being issued for establishments that would either sell medical marijuana. That was added to the zoning resolution a number of years ago after it became legal in the state of Ohio. And then recently, last year in 2024, we added language to prohibit recreational marijuana when it became, well, it was right before that became legal on a statewide basis. So what the Board of Trustees did on April the 8th, you formally requested that the Zoning Commission initiate a text amendment to look at how we could incorporate eliminating those two prohibitions and then to allow the licensing of cannabis dispensaries in Colerain Township. And so as we have worked through that since that date, the zoning commission met May the 24th, I believe. And May 20th. And so as they considered the policy that we put forth, and I want to read through those, they did vote 5-0 to recommend to you the policy that's before you. So number one, I think primarily the table revision that would allow cannabis dispensary in certain zoning districts, it would be the avenue mixed north, central, and south. So avenue being Colerain Avenue. So cannabis dispensary would only be allowed on Colerain Avenue. They wouldn't be allowed anywhere outside of that. I think key to the definition is that they would be a cannabis dispensary that's only licensed through the state of Ohio. The hours of operation notably would be 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. as we looked at the dispensaries that are in Southwest Ohio. We feel like that was a very common operating window, and so felt like that was reasonable. The operation type, again, would be medical and non-medical dispensaries. I think I read that approximately only 20% of the original medical licenses that were issued are still in existence, because now the patient who had a license does not need a medical license to be able to get what they want. Now, just a reminder that medical license did not allow them to purchase marijuana for combustible purposes, according to the state law, so you couldn't smoke it. It was dispensed in a variety of other means, but obviously now for adult use, it can be in those means or in the ability to smoke. The buffers that are going to be that they were recommended to you, 750 feet from schools, churches, public libraries, public playgrounds, or parks, and then 750 feet from other cannabis dispensaries. The final recommendation that I'll note is that it would be for one dispensary per 25,000 residents. So that currently would be 2 dispensaries along Colerain Avenue. So there are a few other recommendations that they made regarding outdoor displays and storage, site readiness for facades and parking signage and all, but those are all in your packet. So,
And David, if you could speak maybe to the logic of 1 per 25,000, following the state regs and guidelines.
specifically,
I think that was sort of how the state came to their number of licenses that they were coming up with and maybe distributing across the state. I could have that wrong, but I know we had some discussion of how we came to the number. So,
I'm not familiar with the state reg specifically on that. I don't know if Brody
That would be
is.
40 licenses per million people, and if there's 10 million people, that would be 400 licenses. There's 88 counties. Is that what you're coming from?
Yeah, I was trying to think through because I know there was some internal discussion about what the right number per population.
So I originally suggested 1 every 30,000.
So what is the,
Yeah, I'm just saying, because to me, that made that one, that means 1.
what does the
And that makes
state,
it more
what does the
valuable.
state say, Jeff?
Well, that I couldn't remember, so that's why I was trying to extrapolate. Sorry about that.
My recollection was we honed in on the 25,000 because we thought that 2 was a reasonable number to have dispensaries in Colerain Township, particularly based within the districts along Colerain Avenue. And if you're at 1 per 25, then you're locked in at 2 at this point for our population at 59,300.
I'm talking about in terms of negotiating in terms of negotiating a development agreement, it would seem like 1 per 30,000 would make that that agreement, development agreement, a lot more valuable.
Just real quickly, the state does not have a per capita suggestion or requirement. So, for example, the city of Monroe, just up 75, has 4, and it's a city of, I think, maybe 15,000. So there is not like a state requirement or anything like that. So it's really up to you. And to Matt's point, the unique thing here is it's in many ways it's a chicken and egg problem. So when the state, when an applicant submits to the state Board of Cannabis Control, one of the forms they have to complete is a notice of proper zoning, and that just says, "Hey, we are pursuing a property that says we can zone in this area, and so please give us an or please give us a license." So in some ways, the negotiation on perhaps a development agreement, I think what perhaps you're getting at is, hey, if we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 negotiating for a single, maybe we can get a little bit better of a deal. I think there's truth to that, but in many ways, we don't know who will be given the license for basically this, I say township, this division, this area, but for Colerain. So we won't know. We'll certainly have the ability to engage in those conversations. I think we can certainly be productive and strategic with leverage in those conversations on the development agreement, but we don't necessarily know who yet those might be. And it's not even always necessarily first in time. There's a lot of, I don't know, everything that goes behind the scenes of the state, but that's kind of the reason we typically start with the zoning side of it is because one of the forms they have to submit with their application is a notice of proper zoning form. So,
okay, so if we wanted to change that later, we could change that.
Yeah, so you can certainly do that, and honestly, you can just say it doesn't have to be tied to population. You can just say we want 4, we want 6, we want, we're not going to cap it at all. Whatever, however you guys want to handle it, can certainly be.
And the other thing that's in there is the development agreement. And the one thing I noticed on the East Coast, I think it was Rhode Island, Massachusetts, places like that, is that those dispensaries came back later and sued over development agreement, essentially saying there were taxes. And that's why I wanted to hook on a seat license fee, because then if you're going to sue us, we're just not going to renew you and give it to somebody else. And I think that's contemplated in there as well.
Mm-hmm. It is, and as part of this is that the zoning resolution does stipulate that there would be a development agreement with the licensed dispensary, and so that would be something that we would create after the zoning has been determined to allow it. Then we would decide who is going to apply for a specific property.
And that would be
parcel
through the C.I.C.
At this point, I think we're still thinking that we need to go through the Colerain Township itself.
Well, then it is a tax. I mean, the Harrison model to me makes, and I don't know, Brody, if you're familiar with that, but Sycamore Township to a certain degree did it as well.
We did it in Union Township too.
Okay.
So yeah, I've done this before.
With the C.I.C.
No, we didn't use the C.I.C. We went through the township.
Okay.
And it's there. We believe that there's strategic ways to do it.
Okay.
That avoids some of the, the plain language of these statutes that say no additional tax. It's not available to other, business uses and things like that.
And if the state does decide to give that 3 whatever back, then we get up.
Yeah, so that's
Good luck with that. Right, they're not going to do that.
Yeah,
yet.
so there's a lot of legislative changes, and on another township I'm working with right now, we're trying to get in basically a grandfather of existing agreements. So there's a lot going on. No one's really landed on what it looks like just yet, but we're fortunate to be able to have candid conversations with some legislators about it, and they get it. So,
and this is why, I motioned 2 years ago for a moratorium. To my knowledge, I don't think any of these folks have gotten any money from the state yet.
No, and that's an issue, right? So, you might have an agreement that says I need to be paid my 3.6% by March 31st of the following year. They've been open for a year and some change. Haven't seen any money from the state. Dispensaries not wanting to pay the 3.6%. because there's like, hey, we paid it to the state. I'm sorry you
Right.
haven't got it. And, you know, there's,
But they know that going in, that
Yeah,
that's
the
going to.
medical marijuana townships have gotten paid. The medical ones, nothing.
yeah, this is, I'm just talking about recreational.
Right, we're just
community
talking
funds.
about,
That's
Right.
right. That's
just
right.
want to let everybody, people have been paid, and counties have been made money off these
But, yeah, but,
townships.
well, Columbia,
Well, I was just saying Columbia was way ahead of
well,
them.
well, yeah, but now they can't pay now that the payments have stopped, they built a new, what is it, fire station or?
I think of fire, yeah.
Yeah, and they can't pay the bonds because the drip ended. I'm going to motion to approve zoning commission case CZC 25-2 zone text amendment to conditionally permit cannabis dispensaries in certain zoning districts.
I'll second.
I was going to say, because I wanted to have one more additional discussion item on it. So if in Matt's idea about a development agreement and getting paid up front before construction would start, would that be a one-time payment, Matt, or how would you?
I
You said
think-
C license, is that legal or not?
One time.
Well, it's legal till it's not. I mean, Harrison's using it, and I think Harrison got, I think 1 million or 1.5 million. It was spread over 8 quarters. And again, we're not Harrison. There may be different, but the template of what they used, I think, is unique.
Yeah, Dan, I think there's a number of ways you can do it, right? You can do these kind of one-time, I don't want to call them impact fees, but these sort of fees that, you know, offset some of the burden that the township may incur on infrastructure and services. You know, JEDs are another opportunity because those are, you know, I know that you guys don't, I think there's a single JED in the township, but because those can also be off of.
Are those back to being legal now?
JEDs are good, and you can use those on like kind of corporate earnings tax, almost like a corporate earnings tax, an income tax on that, in addition to employees, because the employees aren't really where you're going to get it. It's on the overall gross revenues of the dispensary. So certainly ways that can be either, you know, initial, annual, ongoing, different ways to handle it. So.
And is there some sort of non-severability type clause in this so that if development agreements are declared illegal, then would that wipe out our resolution or what would happen?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't wipe out the resolution. That's a great question and one I've negotiated. Tom Herron, he's a guy out of Cleveland that does a lot of the marijuana dispensary representation. We've gone back and forth on a lot of those exact language and severability agreements, so or provisions in the agreement. So we know what they're trying to do. They know what we're trying to do, and we're just trying to fight a little bit back and forth.
It's going to be on here. We're coming after you. It's all on you.
And part of my consideration is I joined Matt 2 years ago in the moratorium, which we got into place before the vote. And if you go back and look at the vote in the November 23 general election, and you break out Colerain Township, out of 28 precincts, 20 of them approved it, 8 of them didn't. 11,000 Colerain residents voted for this, and 8,000 voted to not have it. So that's something I'm figuring into my decision. Also, is the voters spoke pretty loudly on the issue.
And I've been led to believe that in the right location, we could, a right dispensary could do 20 million plus.
I think I just don't think we're ever going to get nickel one out of it, but I understand that people.
I've always heard like 8 to 10,
Right.
but it's not on Colerain Avenue. Yeah, it's not on Colerain.
Close to 275, so.
And I would recommend, at least initially, until everything settles at the state level and we get through a few quarters, that none of those dollars be dedicated toward ongoing cost. In the short term, we should be looking at setting those aside for capital items to offset one-time costs with
I hope the fellow trustees would agree with that, because I do.
Except if the upfront payment,
upfront payments, and that's where just some of the other stuff that we've talked about, Matt, if there's a chance that it could go to court and then be overturned, that's where we just want to be careful about how we would spend those.
and I just want to make sure that if they do take us to court, we say goodbye.
Yes.
In the development agreement, you just put a covenant not to sue.
Well, that's his department.
Is that something you can put in a development agreement?
Yeah, they're not going to agree to it, but we can try.
That's why, I think that's why the seat
Well,
license.
that's part of the, I mean, that's, again, it just goes into these,
I like that.
all of these conversations about different levers we can pull to increase revenues and things like that. So part of the conversation.
But I think the really important thing to point out here is by not jumping on this right away, I think we've put ourselves in a very good position to leverage a lot of this for we could, if we would have done it the first day, we'd still be waiting on money from the state, and Who knows what they're going to do with it?
And I think too, the state has indicated they plan to at least double the amount of licenses available.
Yep.
So at first, I think there was this concern of if we didn't have a medical dispensary that was going to get a dual use license, did we miss out? And I don't think there's no missing out.
And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the revenue stream is going to be promises made and not kept, just like when we discussed this a month or two ago. The casinos will solve our problems. Sports betting will solve our problems. The lottery, a long time ago, would solve our problems. All these different things that never solved the infrastructure problems. But I do understand that it was a very clear and decisive vote in 23 if you break it out into the Colerain precincts. But I'm not like Jeff said, that would have to go to capital if we ever get a nickel out of it. Because I just wouldn't count on it, because all these other ideas that the state has come up with, have not paid out to so many communities. Monroe, all the townships around us, all the things I described at the other meetings. So I don't have any other comments.
So we can take a vote now.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
All right, next item under development section is zoning commission case CZC 25-3. Again, it's a zoning text amendment. This specifically ties to some technical corrections that we needed to make to the zoning resolution. As just a reminder that originally we adopted a zoning resolution in 1994, updated in 06, and then we brought forward a new one that helps us implement the most recent comp plan that was passed in 2021. And so we, along with staff, we had a consultant that helped us draft all of this. It's a very long process, very detailed, and notably, when you have that much text, there are just some minor mistakes or typos that were made. It was a very substantial step forward in just achieving the zoning recommendations, but clearly, as it said in your packet, this application here proposes a set of technical corrections intended to improve the internal consistency, accuracy, and practical application of the resolution. And so nothing that is substantial, but just felt like for consistency throughout and readability, we needed to make these changes and technical corrections for you, so needs your approval. And the zoning commission did take it up, same meeting in May, and recommended a 5-0 approval, recommended to you.
A motion to approve zoning commission case CZC 25-3 zone text amendment regarding technical corrections.
I'll second.
Thank you so much for, and I think this is always going to be a living document that needs to change with, but modernizing it was a huge lift, and I appreciate everything that was done there.
We continue to see ideas that other communities are using to make their community better, and I think there's some things we can learn. We don't want to be doing this every month, but I think periodically we can bring forward to you some changes, and we have others that the zoning commission has recommended, as we'll see here momentarily, some public hearings at our next meeting regarding food trucks and one-time special events. So these are items that I think will improve Colerain Township.
And you're living up to the credo of the progressive governor from Wisconsin in 1900s, Robert La Follette, who called these are labs of democracy, federalism, where you can try it at one level, and if it works, you just copy it and do it yourself.
There you go.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Next three are just motions. First one would be a motion for the Board of Trustees to set a public hearing on July the 8th at 6 p.m. for a major amendment to a final development plan. That final development plan is Resolution 29-12. So that was passed in 2012. It is at 3636 Pool Road, I believe is the exact address.
A motion to set a public hearing on July 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for a major amendment to final development plan resolution 2912.
I will second Matt's motion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And next is a motion for board to set a public hearing, same day, July the 8th at 6 p.m. for zoning commission case CZC 25-5 regarding an amendment to revise standards related to mobile food service. So feel like these are great provisions to make mobile food trucks and providers more flexible for them to be able to serve special events. We have walked through a progression on food trucks where we had them only in one zoning district, and then we saw that was unworkable. We moved it to 3, and now we see how food trucks really do operate, and so we're trying to pivot with them and make it more flexible for them to serve the Colerain events and residents.
So a motion for the Board of Trustees to set a public hearing on July 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for zoning commission case CZC, that's going to be hard to say this whole year, CZZ, 25-5 regarding a zone text amendment to add and revise standards related to the mobile food services, including provisions for food trucks, trailers, and temporary food vending operations.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
And the final motion is for a public hearing to be set for July the 8th for zoning commission case CZC 25-8. And it is a zone text amendment to establish new regulations for one-time special events.
A motion for the Board of Trustees to set a public hearing on July 8th, 2025 at 6 p.m. for zoning commission case CZC 25-8 regarding a zone text amendment to establish new regulations for one-time special events, including defined timelines, permit requirements, and performance standards.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thanks,
Thank you.
David.
Thank you, Board. The next item on the agenda is a resolution adopting ballot language for the police tax levy. As a reminder, at the last meeting, you all certified 3 separate rates to the county auditor. Late this morning, early afternoon, we actually got those back. So I'm happy to report the actual numbers for these levy certifications, but essentially, big picture, the 3 rates would have the following impact. So at a 2 mil, we would have a gap that we would need to somehow solve over our 5-year horizon. At 2.3 mils, we would keep staffing levels at today's levels. So that's 59 officers that we have employed. So there would be no increases to staffing. At 2.9 mils, we sat down internally, and the plan would be to create a new beat in Eastern Colerain, which would free up our Western Colerain officers to stay in their district more frequently. We would refill the detective position that was vacated with the last round of cuts at the failure of the last 2 levies. And we would look at adding 2 additional officers. One would be dedicated more for traffic, so neighborhood traffic, speeding violations, that sort of thing. And the other would be probably likely back into the impact unit to focus on those high impact type of crimes. When it came to the levy certifications, what's in the packet for 2 mils was spot on, so the county certified that number at that rate. For 2.3 mils, there was about a $19,000 gap, and 2.9, the number was also about $19,000. So not a germane difference in terms of what the impact is and what we're looking at for operations. But my recommendation would be for you all to have a discussion, and this, if we take action today, would give us time to get a resolution down to the Board of Elections. So then if there are any issues, we could certainly fix that in an upcoming meeting. So
Studying the results from the last 2 levy attempts, which one of those do you think would pass? Personally, I'm fine paying any of them.
I think it's difficult to say. I don't know.
How are we going to make up the difference?
Yeah, I don't know if voter appetite has drastically changed. There have been some changes that, in theory, the voters have felt. I mean, some of the things that we talked about tonight with Clippard Park and just not having the staffing available to constantly be a presence is something that's been felt. I know, and this may not be something that every voter feels, but, because we had to remove a detective position, that meant that there were certain impacts for how long, what types of cases, how long they get processed, what have you. And then there were a number of other cuts that we made along the way, like speed cameras, speed studies. That's something I hear about all the time that residents would like to see come back. However, whether or not that changes their opinions and what they would be willing to vote for, I don't know. That's not a science area in terms of voter turnout and preferences that I've got a unique insight into.
We have to do the math and figure out how to get one of these passed.
I think staff would appreciate if we were able to find a solution that would be amenable to all three trustees. I know that would mean a lot to us to know that we've got 5 years of funding secured, we have a plan secured in place, and for it to be something that publicly all three trustees would be able to announce that they're all, all moving forward together.
And none of the three is continuous levy, they're 5-year.
These are all 5-year only, so that means in exactly 5 years, we'd be back on the ballot to either renew the levy or replace it. One of the nice things about renewals is then you would capture any growth that happens organically in the township. The continuous levies that we have in place don't really capture that growth, right? So when I was doing the math, we could take all of our levies that currently exist for police, refund all those, and put a new levy on that would be a much lower millage rate, but would not, it's still one of those numbers that's really high and probably shocking to voters that they wouldn't want to take. So I think if you took, if it were a 6 mil replacing 9 or something to that effect, I can't remember the exact math.
No. Well, I'm certainly willing to meet in the middle on those, but I'd have to hear what the other two have to say. So we need to get something we can pass that'll at least keep us where we're at, and hopefully, I know with the last time we discussed this, we talked about when some of the TIFs would start producing more money, not that you want to use that for operations, but it would help us offset some of the capital purchases we have to make for the police. And, if the TIFs came in, then we could buy the, police cars and other equipment and that, and, but at least this way we would have operational money secured, and our employees could, count on having a job and getting paid, and it would be secure, and it's something that we have to get something passed.
What I've heard tonight, especially, we've heard we need more police presence, we need more roads, but if we don't do, a 2.3 is not going to get what our police need. We are at such a deficit of police officers, and what you hear out there is, where's the cops now? People are looking for more cops. They want to see speeders and people go through red lights. It's dangerous at a red light anymore, and people can do it because the cops aren't around. Crime's not going anywhere. I would love to have 85 cops. I know we don't have the.
And I would too.
I mean, we all would love to have that. I mean, and we don't want to cut any more to the township. At the present, we are at a modified response. We heard from residents that, they need more police. Well, we can't give it to them. We don't have the physical being to do that. And then if we don't get the levy, it's going to be even cut more. We had people hear about curbs and roads and speed bumps. We can't do any of that. We have just cut to bare bones. So I am 2.9 is my lowest. I mean, it's 20 cents more per thousand.
It's 20. It's $81 or $102.
Yeah, so okay, so a little over 20. Yeah, I
Kathy, that's fine if you think it would pass,
well,
but we can't take a third loss.
You said last time nothing over 3. That's why I came up with the 2.9. I think $10 per 100,000. There's a lot of people that can afford $10. So per 100,000. I know it's still a strain on a lot of people. I hate doing this to the residents, but I think it's one of our necessary evils.
So let's talk timing on this. When is this due? When do we need to file this with?
So it has to be filed, I believe it's the first week of August, so 5th, 6th, 7th, somewhere through there. I could pull up the election calendar to get the exact date.
Our budget numbers need to be filed the 15th of July.
So that's one of the tricks here is that the county auditor likes to see in your tax budget a new levy that's being contemplated. So that's sort of a wrinkle to this that I guess theoretically, we could both adopt the tax budget and a levy at our next meeting. We would just have to adopt a levy rate first, make a quick tweak to the tax budget, and then adopt that second.
And that's, and I think you probably see where I'm going with that, because these aren't separate issues. I mean, they're combined issues, and I think to vote one time on the levy and next time on the budget separates the two, and certainly they're interactive. I think it shows the residents, and B, it forces us as trustees to make the decisions not within a vacuum, saying, hey, we're voting on that levy, then this is what the budget's got to look like.
If we hadn't lost two of them, I mean.
Well, no, I'm cognizant of that as
Residents
well,
have
yeah.
spoken twice, and I just don't want to lose a third time.
I do believe the one, when Hamilton County increased a lot of people's property taxes by 40%, it really was a major impact. It was not a time to go over the levy, but we did not know when we put our levy out there that Hamilton County was going to do that to us too. So I think that hopefully people settle down a little bit and budget a little. I know times are tough. I do get that, the cost of gas and groceries, I get it. But
Mr. White, is that practical, what I've suggested?
We could delay the vote to the next meeting. Yes, it would just, I think we would probably want to put old business at the start of the meeting, so that then, in theory, if we went that route, Mr. McElravy, while the meeting is going on, could be fixing the tax budget for a final adoption, so that we just wouldn't have a tax budget.
We should just make a decision tonight.
I would like to make a decision tonight.
So another idea, I'll throw this out there for you guys to consider. Certainly, we're not there because it would take time and processes, but I have seen some communities that have put on more than one, with the understanding that one is a much lower rate, and that's an enhanced services type of rate. I believe Ross did that at their last election cycle, where they had, let's say if we were using this example, the 2.3s would be to maintain service, and then they had a subsequent levy also on the ballot for 0.6 that would, allow for enhanced service levels. So if both passed, then they would get everything, but if one passed, their hope and their pitch to people was to just at least vote yes on what the 2.3 would be, so.
Then you could
We'd
lose
have
both.
to
You could lose
certify
both
a
of them
rate,
that
we'd
way.
have to get that back, and then we'd have to put it on, so that takes time.
But 2.3 keeps us
Keeps us where we are right
where
now.
we are, and 2.9 adds,
It had 7 officers,
right.
And we're off modified response.
and we would be
And
back.
I understand that.
I know.
Kathy, and I want to get something.
I know, that's why I feel bad for these people, that they have a park issue, but if we've got a car crash or we've got a domestic, we can't get to people like that. That's what we need more officers for. And our guys are strained. I mean, they're being pulled every way. At the one meeting, people were upset about seeing our police officers in parking lots. I said, well, there's a dual purpose for that. So you can see a police presence, they're doing their reports versus taking the drive time from the incident back to here, and then our response times will be better, that they're out in their area that they need to be responding to. So I just feel bad. Our guys are pulled so many different ways, and it's how long can they keep that up? And especially when they're being actively recruited by many municipalities, and they pay more money and they better benefits. So we've got to keep what we've got, because we've got an exemplary group of men.
So the 2.3 mils produces $4,199,000, and the 2.9 mils produces $5,294,000. That's over $1 million more.
And so that's our 7 cops.
Yep, 7 officers.
Again, I just want to reiterate, I think that doing them both at the same time shows the accountability for the rate that's selected for each of us. That, if I vote for X rate, then I have to reflect it in Y the budget on the same night. Sure. So that people see the connection, and see the connection of what will happen if it doesn't pass, or if this level passes or that level passes. And you're saying, I think, we can do it.
Yeah, the tax budget would not demonstrate what happens if it doesn't pass.
Okay,
So the tax budget would be right-sized with the assumption of the new levy.
all right,
And that's to make sure that the auditor collects the tax.
gotcha.
If the levy fails and the auditor doesn't collect it, that's a separate process that we're gonna navigate through in this early fall.
But still, doing the tax budget and the levy rate at the same time
So-
shows what it looks like.
Can you have Mr. McElravy put together two different tax budgets that satisfy what Matt's asking for, so it was prepared and he wasn't sitting there,
Yep.
he wasn't sitting there
Right, right.
Tuesday
Right,
night in
right,
2
yes.
weeks trying to figure it out?
Yep, we could do that.
But again, I'm just one, and I understand, I mean, I think that everybody has,
I completely, we can't have a third one go down, because, the nightmare scenario Kathy described earlier could happen. I'd rather, try to be a little bit more positive than that, but,
Maybe as a just way to navigate this a little bit, I think I heard you say two options. You said two. I haven't heard anybody really say the 2.0. Would it make sense for us to reject
fine. You
that
can-
option formally?
yeah, I could get rid of that.
And so then at the next meeting, just hearing all three of you kind of say that without it being a vote, if we brought forward these resolutions again, they would just be for those two. I would just ask that if we're going to go this route, if there's anything in particular from an expectation standpoint you would have of how we can better get a sense of where people are, or if that's something you all are planning on doing to come to a decision on this at the next meeting, which will be in a few weeks.
And again, I might be completely wrong about this. It's just my feeling is that we link them.
Oh, I understand, but I don't want to, if Mr. McElravy's prepared to
Right.
submit either budget, and then we
I
can.
don't want him in the
approve it.
back with a little green cap and then,
Right.
typing it up.
We might enjoy that on staff. So.
Well, I understand that, Matt, and I agree that we need more. Without a police department, you're going to have chaos. You're going to have what goes on in other parts of the world, and it would happen in a week. And we wouldn't obviously get rid of them, but we'd have to cut our forces in half, and I don't want that to happen. I want to, sustain what we have, and one of the other things we talked about, and seeing the difference in that it generates $1 million difference. I know that at the previous meeting, I had suggested permanently dedicating some part of the general fund to that for 5 years, because you were concerned that I said, well, let it go for 2 and let's get Sears on board, and hopefully by year 3 it's generating something. And I understand your feeling on not counting on that, because we don't know what's going to ultimately happen up the street. But, I'd certainly consider, dedicating some of the general fund to the police to supplement the 2.3 mils to get us a little somewhere halfway between where Kathy and I are at, and yet still get something that the voters can afford to approve.
Also, for those people, when we went to the meeting for the public forum, people did bring up bringing back Hamilton County. And just to let the public know, if we got rid of our police force and hired Hamilton County, we'd still need a levy. And
Right.
it's going to be 12 to 15
I
million.
would never want to do that.
Well, and our
Not
response
to
times.
sound the collective bargaining agreement clause, but we're not allowed to do
I
that
know,
per
but
that
just when you
CBA,
hear these
so.
people, what they're talking about, it's not an option. So we have to deal with this right now to keep the safety of our township.
And I'll make this clear now, and it'll be evident, not the tax budget, but the next go-around, that I don't have any intention of cutting any police officers, even if it loses. I'm going to cut everywhere else. I mean, I think that our primary job here is police, fire, and roads, and everything else is extra. And so, that said, there's going to be a definite, I'm one of 3, but that's just definite choice that folks will have to make. And that's why I wanted to try to align everything together to show what it was going to bring, because that gap, and again, that's not a gap. I keep hearing this narrative of fiscal irresponsibility. The police haven't asked for more money in they haven't spent more money in 7 years, right? Or 8 years it's been.
You mean a levy? It's been.
No, I mean in the.
From 5 to 11, so from the.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Their total expenditure and how that's changed over the years. I don't know how many years in a row that it has been at almost the same exact size, but to your point, the issue here is a revenue issue in that our revenue does not change.
That's
And
right.
So as things generally become more expensive, and some of it's out of our control. I mean, for example, body cameras, which we all think are critical, that the cost for that just keeps rising and rising and rising.
And there's
So,
one vendor.
there's essentially one vendor.
Right, essentially, yeah, because I thought about maybe we'll get rid of body cameras, and I realized that, well, Brody would like that to defend all the lawsuits, but, you know, I mean, it's things that you really don't account for, that you're like, wow, it costs that much to then have the radio serviced. It drives me nuts, but, I mean, you know, when I first started here, you could drive through McDonald's and get a value meal for like $5 or $6. I think they're like 10 now. I mean, it's everything has gone up, and you know,
And also at that meeting, I think people were wanting more police officers. You were back there. I think the general public does not like what's going on, and I'm hoping that the difference between a 2.3 of, do you want to stay where we're at and continue to complain and want more police, or for a few more pennies on the dollar, have.
and you know, there's an argument to be made theoretically about more police now will mean less police 5 years from now, right? I mean, that we won't need to grow at the consistent rate, because it will start deterring that crime to the point and putting
Right.
people.
How do we overcome I think the last one went down by 700 votes, so if 352 people changed their mind, it would pass. And I'm just purely looking at, it is a political issue, and
I agree.
how do we get that 352 people to change their mind?
Grassroots campaigns, we did the public hearing. I'm actually having a meeting, inviting as many people as I can. Actually, I'm gonna host dinner to have Ed talk to as many people as I can get, to have the positive of what we need so they can start spreading the word. I think we just really have to do some more grassroots campaigning here.
Looking at the voting map after the last levy, the biggest gaps in terms of no votes outweighing yes votes tended to trend from your precincts that are either outside of the 275 loop or just inside but down in the Harrison Avenue corridor. That's probably where it lost the worst. Now, those are areas that are growing, and I know we've got new development, especially off of Harrison Avenue, with several new neighborhoods that are being, you know, in various stages of construction. You now got Copper Creek that's coming in, and so whether or not new residents there have an impact or a change, I can't say, but that was certainly just looking at those numbers. You also see that there is a big difference in voter turnout when you look at precincts across the township. You see a much higher concentration of voter turnout in western Colerain than you do in eastern Colerain. Some of that probably is socioeconomic driven, just looking at just different studies that I've seen over the years. But those are some things to keep in mind too.
That's why I'm having a meeting.
So is that favor you to put this till July 8th and come back with one of those two choices?
Yeah, if I'm not putting any, you know,
As long
again,
as we can get it done.
So when does it have to be down to the county?
August, and I always like us to adopt this, you know, one meeting early in the off chance that we send it to the Board of Elections. They say, nope, your resolution is wrong, you got to fix it, so we don't have to call an emergency.
If we send it July 8th, when would they?
We should know within the week or two that
Okay, so we're.
before the next
timeline
meeting,
is
so.
fine, July 8th, okay.
So my plan, just so the board is aware with the agenda, is old business will be the first item before new business. It will have this ballot language conversation there, and I'll be bringing forward two of the three certifications, the 2.3 and the 2.9.
and the other thing with doing that is it gives us a little bit more time to get the sense of what people want.
And I'd encourage anyone who's watching that has feelings or opinions to send emails or give phone calls to all of you all. I know staff and the police department, we have our contact information on the website as well, and so happy to take any feedback that we get.
Do you know what else is on the ballot this fall, levy-wise or tax-wise at the county?
Yeah, I was looking at that earlier today. Great Parks has a renewal on for their operating levy of $1 million. I believe that's the only countywide issue that I've seen at this moment, but they also have time to get something still on there. I'm not sure what their tax levy review committee cycle has slated that would be up for renewal. And then statewide, the one item that I'm kind of keeping an eye on is the statewide potential ballot initiative to eliminate property tax. So that would be it'd be kind of a juxtaposition there to have a levy on at the same time that you're voting to eliminate
Levy
tax.
passes and then the eliminate property tax passes.
That would be, yes, that could be an
And the
oxymoron.
immunity thing is going to be on for,
Oh, the police immunity.
Yeah, which
yes,
is-
yep. And that could drive out folks for or against a police levy. So somebody that comes out to vote against or for police immunity might be for a police levy and vice versa, so.
And that was the other, what reason it didn't pass. I mean, the recreational marijuana was on the same as our levy, so people coming out for.
Well, yeah, it's certainly a moving,
two bad times
moving
we
target,
put-
and,
yeah.
and I agree we could use either amount, but, you know, like you said, I understand people are really stretched out right now financially.
I get a sense the immunity thing, at first I thought it was going to be a negative for the levy, but I think it's going to draw pro-levy people because it's such a overreach.
And my interpretation of that means that police officers and other, would it be specifically police, or would it be even us, that we could be personally liable for the actions we take?
Yeah, it's qualified immunity in general.
Qualified immunity, yeah,
Yeah, which applies to more than just police. It apply to public works, fire, trustees, employees. So,
Law directors.
law directors, no doubt.
I mean, that would end, I can't imagine anybody, I wouldn't want to take that on, to be civilly liable for the decisions we make up here. That's the, I don't know what the motivation is to put that on there, on the ballot, because you're not going to have any fire or police or public works if people can be individually sued. Like if I'm driving a snowplow and I don't plow your street, are you going to come back and sue me for not plowing your streets? You could get out of your driveway. I mean, it's crazy to think that that's where we're at in society, that people would, consider such a thing.
And I would say there are probably some people that have that desire to hold us accountable in that regard.
You'll lose 90% of your employees, because, I'm not going to sit here and be sued for things.
To maybe get back to your other question, the tax levy review committee page indicates they did not have any levies on in 2020, so I would suspect that there would not be any countywide issues unless they're doing something out of its typical cycle.
And then and I've mentioned it before, I was on that for 11 years, from 2005 until 2016, and nothing went up more than the rate of inflation during those 11 years, and I was very proud of that.
Is there a motion to table?
We never motioned to put one on the,
We have no motions to do.
we have no motion to
At
to
this
put anything out for a vote. Is that correct?
Right, because it was just a resolution adopting ballot language, and we decided not to do it till the July 8th.
Okay, so, yeah, I think we need to.
We need a motion to do
I'm going to motion to table until next meeting, the ballot language for police tax levy.
I'll second.
I think you're
Okay.
correct.
In discussion, I would say, so you're going to get rid of the 2.0 option and come back with either 2.3 or 2.9, and that'll be what we're voting on the next scheduled meeting, which is July 8th. Right?
That is the plan.
Okay.
No other discussion from me.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. The final item is a motion to move our regularly scheduled meeting on November 25th to November 11th. November 11th is Veterans Day. That's why we had originally moved it to November 25th. But unfortunately, something has come up that has caused a member of the board to not be available. And so there was a request to consider having it on Veterans Day. And so that's what this motion would do. And I would recommend adoption.
I motion that we move the November 25th meeting to November 11th.
I'll second.
And I'm available for either, but I'm fine with the 11th.
Well, it gives people a good time to get away for Thanksgiving.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Thank you, Board. That concludes new business under consent items. I'll read those. So new hire, this is accounting specialist Lisa White at $24.04 per hour. New hire of a school safety officer, Earl Davis, at $39 per hour. Donation acceptance from the Moose Lodge at $1,965.41 for the fire department. A similar donation from the Moose Lodge to the police department. And then a contract with Choice One Engineering. This is for the property survey work related to the sidewalk breezeway down at Geraldine, and that is for $6,975, and I would recommend adoption of the consent items.
A motion to adopt consent items A through E is read by Mr. Weckbach in the meeting packet.
I'll second.
And thank you to the Cincinnati Moose Lodge. They've been so generous over my years here and continue to be, and I appreciate that.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, do we have fiscal office report?
No report.
Okay. Is there a need for an executive session?
I would recommend a motion to go into executive session in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purposes, and with G3 to discuss pending or imminent litigation. No action is contemplated after executive session.
And I motion we go into executive session for the reasons detailed by Mr. Weckbach.
I'll second.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back in probably an hour. We don't have- Okay, we're back from executive session. Is there anything to, oh, we gotta take a
Roll
roll call
call.
first, sorry.
Ms. Orich?
Here.
Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Waller?
Here.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report.
Motion to adjourn?
I will second that motion.
Ms. Orich?
Yes.
Mr. Unger?
Yes.
Mr. Waller?
Yep.
Okay, we are officially adjourned at 8:52 PM. Thank you.